Yeah, what's going on, party people? The place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? What's going on, party people? I see we got the chat filling up. What up, Nate? What up, Rome? We got Caramel Crunk. What up, D New? You know what I mean? And of course, I'm getting together with, the second half of the EPMD of Urban Apologetics. You know what I mean? One wrecks, the other destroys.
There
Of
you
course,
go.
I'm talking about the hometown hero, Adam Coleman. What's good, bro?
What's going on, man? Glad to be back at it, man. Like this is our thing, man. This is what we do, bro. These breakdowns, brother.
Breakdowns, man.
Yeah,
And
man.
hopefully we'll be joined by Mr. Malone. He's off gallivanting, doing whatever he
Who knows,
does.
man?
Yeah.
I think he's saving cats out of trees and
Walking
walking
old ladies across the street. Yeah.
right. Hopefully practicing social distancing while doing so. You know what I'm saying?
Nate's funny. He said, "No vocab. Wow, this is even better. No, be nice. Vocab will be in shortly. All right. So, what we're talking about today, as you know, me and Adam, we've begun a tradition of sorts where we'll see certain interviews, certain lectures, and it all started with the whole Jabari and Vince Bantu debate. Man, how long ago was that now? It's not a year.
No,
Right?
it was, the debate. Well, the debate was October, I think, right?
Oh wow,
I
yeah.
want to say
I
the
think
debate
so.
was in like mid-October. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we getting up there with it, man. We putting the body of work together.
Right. So we've been just really fact checking, and me and Adam really work well together, I believe. And I just want to continue doing this, we recently did a breakdown with Zion Lex and Professor Smalls,
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
that's pretty good. So
Mhm.
I'm scrolling through my timeline. I see this interview with a gentleman by the name of Risa Islam, right? And I've seen him a few times. He's really big on Instagram, and he's a member of the Nation of Islam. And he was on a Drink Champs with Noriega interview, which I found interesting because Noriega usually he has like a lot of '90s hip hop artists, and like some fairly old school artists, and just really seeing what's going on with them. So to have a member of the NOI there piqued my interest. So I'm like, wow, this is not who you usually have on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the interview, he says some very interesting things that I think will be good for us to address. Look at vocab.
Bro, how is he in the chat?
How you in the chat?
How is he in the chat? But he's not in the live,
What's that
bro.
about, bro?
What is this, bro?
Give me 5. Give me a break. How about
Right.
that, vocab?
How about you get 5 in the super chat? You know what I'm saying, so that you can get on this live. How about that?
Well, I'm not super chat ready yet. I'm not there yet, man.
We
But
about PayPal
from your mouth to PayPal. You know what? I should just for that. You know what I mean? I like how you thinking, bro.
There you go.
I like how you thinking. Here we go.
Vocab got to hit you up in that Cash App.
You know what I mean?
Or the PayPal. There it is.
So, but yeah, so I thought it kind of falls within what me and Adam do. We look at what these other paradigms within the overarching conscious community speak on. And I felt like we could just pick it apart. And again, as always, much love to Risa Islam. This is not, we're not going to slander him. I've never met the gentleman. Seems like a very nice guy. I think we would get along with him. He seems like a very fun dude to be around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so as I was watching the video, I couldn't put my finger on, man. He reminds me of somebody. It's been bothering me this whole time, bro. I can't put my finger on it, man. But yeah, I mean, he seems like a cool dude. And to be honest with you, I hadn't really heard of him until you sent me the link. That was my first time hearing about him. But apparently, he's been out here, building up his platform, particularly on Instagram, from what I understand, and getting his name out there. But I thought that was interesting too, because like Noriega, actually, I guess you can say a number of rap artists now are kind of reinventing themselves, where they're doing like podcasts and things like that, in like a new kind of like maybe a second phase of their career. So you got like Noriega. I'm thinking about like Joe Budden's, T.I. now, David Banner. There's a number of people doing that. So I guess, and I think from what I understand, Drink Champs is one of the more successful ones. So
yeah, it's big.
Yeah, so if Rizza Islam is on there, I mean, he's really made a name for himself. He's really made a name for himself. So I think it would be interesting.
And Vocab, if you're listening, I just put it in your inbox, sir. The link. All right. Wow, this is a great question off the rip. I can't even. What's a good book for NOI engagement? I do not know.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if there's as far as books about them specifically, matter of fact, I think I could have sworn Vocab had one. So maybe
that's why I want Vocab in. He's the specialist here.
He's an NOI guy, Mm-hmm. And actually, while we're at it, I mean, full disclosure, just to put all my imperfections out there for like literally no reason, but just because like Benjamin Dixon is a guy I owe a huge apology for, man. I'm supposed to have been linked up with that cat, man, on terms of he's a guy out here that's doing presentations as well. So I'm really excited to see what he's about to come out with. He hit me up some time ago and about doing some presentation stuff. So I'm definitely looking forward to what he's bringing to the table.
Office of book. It says Defending Black Faith is a good one. Can you tell us who the author is? I don't know who the author is.
I think that's Usry and it's a shame because I talk about the guy. He's a very well known guy. It's great. I think it's like Greg Usry and
Blaze. If you could put the title and the author into the chat so everybody else can check it out. You know what I mean? So definitely appreciate the contribution there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, MJ.
I can't remember the dude's name.
Black Faith. MJ as well. If you could put down the name and the author of the book as well.
Craig Keener. That's what. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. Oh, I seen that. Yeah, I gotta get that joint.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these books, they don't come in ebooks. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
Because I read everything from my iPad Mini. So Alton Johnson says, "Is Rizza Islam the new face of the NOI?" I don't know if he's the new face. He's a fresh face.
He's a newer face. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think what you have right now, and this is actually, I think, kind of goes to why I think for somebody like Rizza Islam, his appearance on things like Drink Champs would be important for him, is the fact that what in the world? I'm pretty sure like one of my shingles just fell off.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Anyway, one of the reasons I think for Rizza Islam, like why this might be important, is the fact that right now in NOI, I mean, everybody knows that Farrakhan is getting up in age. You know what I'm saying? For a long period of time, I guess you can say decades now, the NOI has been largely personality driven, with Farrakhan at the helm. And I think there's been a number of guys where they've tried to like test drive a successor. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody to come along after Farrakhan. And there's a number of guys. I mean, you got like with Khalid Muhammad, Wesley Muhammad, a guy named Nuri Muhammad out now.
Right.
I'm saying he's kind of. I've seen him more so recently, and I guess now Islam might be making trying to make a move. But I mean, everybody I think wants to be like that next guy. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah. That's why I think it's important to kind of stay on top of these kinds of things. So we know, we can kind of just keep sharpening our swords out here as urban apologists, man.
Right, no doubt. So, Cab, I put it in your Cab Malone inbox, bro. If you are listening,
he put a book in the chat. Nation of, I lost it. I think it's the Nation of Islam, Understanding Black Muslims. I think is what he said.
That's great, Vocab. How about you get in now?
He's killing the chat, though, man. He's killing it in the chat, man. You guys.
Okay, I put the link in your Cab Malone Facebook page, bro. It's in your inbox.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's funny. We got your back. I can freestyle if you need me to. Yeah.
Oh, snap. Cat's about to spit a diss track. You know what I'm saying? Because we're out here, man.
It's real in these YouTube streets. You know what I mean? So
apparently.
But you know what? We actually could start if you want to queue up the video.
Yep, I already got it queued up. Well, let me make sure that I got the right timestamp here. Give me 1 second. Oh shoot. Okay. Well, I emailed it to myself, so I'll just do that.
All right.
Oh yeah, so I'll bring out the video. So you pretty much already introduced it, I guess. So
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and bring that joker up. Oh yeah, I already got it queued up. Oh no, no.
Vocab. Give me 5 more. Give me 5 more. How about that? A funny dude. Give me 5 more.
Is he doing like taking a shower or something? Or
I don't know, man. Maybe he's doing an Adam Coleman getting a sandwich ready.
Hey, you know how I do, bro.
I'm surprised you pulled one out just now. I'm waiting for it.
I just ate, man. I was trying to respect your channel, man. I just had me my dinner like literally like minutes before. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do better, man. I'm trying to repent of my ways, man.
Nah, man, it's all good, man. If you gotta eat, you gotta eat, man. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
There we go.
I mean, it's strange, but we love you. We love you as is, just like the Lord does.
Right. I got so I brought it up. Can you see that or?
Yeah, I can see it.
You want me to go ahead and play it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, cool. Oh shoot, man, I'm pushing the wrong screen. Golly. All right, there we go.
Let's get into the Super Bowl, for instance. You said something that was very very ill to me. You said that every time there's something major that happens, you said what they do is they make a circus.
Yes.
Okay, so
the Super Bowl is actually referred to as the Roman circus. You're dealing with something that was long ago in Rome. So whenever the society was going down, the government was pretty much destroying the people. It was real nasty. People, they would put them in the Coliseum, or it was called the Roman circus. Or it was also called the Circus Maximus, to distract the people so that the government can continue doing what they're doing, just like this government is doing today.
Wow.
All right. So right off the bat, they're talking about the Super Bowl, and he's connecting the Super Bowl with a particular cultural ritual that happened within the Greco-Roman Empire. Adam, can you speak on that real quick? Like, what exactly is he referring to? This Circus Maximus?
Well, sure. First of all, Rome's got a pretty long history. They're doing different things at different times. But, one thing that we can say was a mainstay, at least for portions of it, was, the Colosseum, that you had, many people think about like Christian persecution or something like that, where Christians are being killed in the Colosseum. But even before then, one of the modes of entertainment were various types of games, if you will. Some of which were like, your Olympics and things like that. They had a particular style of wrestling that they would engage in where, dudes would be like, down to their skivvies, if you will, wrestling each other, which is weird to me, but that's how they was getting down. Rome was a weird place, man,
Right.
Now, of course, all of these practices were associated with their pagan gods and rituals and things like that. We have to remember everything in terms of just Roman life was just about, everything was associated with their spiritual practices and all that kind of stuff. So down to politics, and in this case, their games and whatnot. As a matter of fact, I got a book right here.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
It's a good book, man. It's just simply titled Rome, an Empire Story by Greg Wolfe. Nice. Rome, an Empire Story by Greg Wolfe. And it's just really cool, man. It gives a good overview, and it gets into, just various aspects of, Roman life. And again, one of them was, their form of entertainment. They would go to the Coliseum and they would see these guys engage in different types of athletic feats. Now, with that being said, some of their stuff was pretty heinous and gory. One of the ways that they would entertain themselves is they would have things like a bear, they would just let it starve for a period of time till they get like mad and hungry. And then they would unleash it on like, a group of prisoners or something like that, or Christians, or just some undesirable person that was their fate or something like that for whatever reason. And these things would take place in the Colosseum as well. So, Riza Islam is saying that the Roman government would do these things in order to distract the people from, according to him, like shady dealings that they had going on back in the day.
So
has joined us.
Mr. Malone has graced us with his presence. What's going on, sir?
Pardon me. Thanks for having me in. Sorry I was a little bit late, but I can tell you what, the part you guys are just mentioning, right away when I heard the interview, I was like, we're going to have some problems here, because he was talking about the government doing something. in the case of Rome, you know, you have an empire at this time with a Caesar, and the imperial Caesar is the head of the government, and he eventually becomes, you know, this sort of deified kind of figure, especially after death. Well, that's who's throwing the games. That's the Circus Maximus. It's actually a governmental thing. So if you want to make some kind of comparison, I would maybe say our lottery. Our lottery is state ran. You know, they use the excuse that it's gonna, you know, help schools and stuff, but you're ripping off people to do the, you know, that'd be the closest kind of where it's actually state ran. My point is, the NFL is not the government, dude. I'm just saying right away when I heard this, I was like, that's not the same thing. Wasn't the Super Bowl already scheduled to happen? Number one, wasn't the, you know what I'm saying? He's like, well, whenever this happens, they do it. Well, the Super Bowl is already happening.
Like every year.
Every year.
I hope this grown man in America realizes that. You know what I'm saying? And then second of all, don't they want to make the halftime show a spectacle every year? If it's some blando, you know, baby boomer group, just a throwback just to make the boomers happy, people aren't going to be talking about it. They need, that's what they want. They want people to, they want a wardrobe malfunction or something because it's a Super Bowl halftime show. They want to light it up and make it amp and make people talk about it and have it trending on Twitter and all that stuff because the NFL wants that, because the NFL just cares about your eyeballs so they can get dollars because eyeballs translate into money.
Right.
So I'm not sure how he thought that made sense to compare that with the regularly scheduled NFL sponsored Super Bowl with a state sponsored thing.
Right.
You know, but the thing that is true about Rome, the idea is bread and games. Give them that, distract them. And eventually the empire still collapses. The barbarians at the door, the empire collapses. And by the way, that's why you should read City of God by Augustine, because that's exactly what that book is about when the Roman Empire collapses. Go ahead.
Right, good stuff. Hey, damn, vocab coming in with bars already, son.
Well, he better. He's late. He better do it.
Augustine, who is also an African, need I remind you?
Preach. Tell him, son. That's right.
And, you know, what's crazy is too. I mean, to vocab's point, like I think, and this is actually, and when we do these breakdowns, you know, one thing that, you know, we've always done is try to keep people in on certain insights that they can apply regardless of who they're engaging with. Okay, so one thing that you always want to watch out for is when people make comparisons or when they make parallel, like make sure that you test it to see if that really holds up the scrutiny. You know what I'm saying? Because just because a table has 4 legs and a chair has 4 legs, that doesn't mean that a table is a chair. You know what I'm saying? And so what happens is sometimes people will take like one vague similarity between 2 different things and they connect the dots between them without really arguing their case. And so you always want to be careful about that. And I think that's the case here. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you do have Rome having these spectacles to entertain the people, you know, keep them occupied and so on and so forth. At the same time, you still got work to do in order to argue that that's the case with respect to the Super Bowl.
Right.
You can't just say, oh, well, this is entertainment, that's entertainment. Therefore, you know, we have this direct parallel. And last thing I'm going to say with that, too, even then, it's like, okay, if you're going to say that, well, later on in the interview, it could have been before this, like when they were talking about how to pronounce, you know, Risa Islam. I think it's pronounced Risa Islam. Right. And I think what's the name referred to him as Rizza. I always say pizza. Rizza. Pizza Islam. You know, Noriega. You know what I'm saying? Almost referred to. I mean, he did refer to him as Rizza. And he was joking, he said, yeah, I rock a RZA. And he's kind of like making references to hip hop and stuff like that. Right. Well, that's another form of entertainment too. So are you going to, you know, lump that in, you know what I'm saying, with the Super Bowl as well? Like you can take any form of entertainment and make the same argument. You know what I'm saying? So, but
I'm going to right? You said that.
Or
Superman is entertainment. Right?
Superman. Remember he brought up the comic books, he brought up superheroes.
Yeah.
So he could do a whole thing. Watch this. Whether it's a Super Bowl or superheroes or super groups, they're distracting us.
Right. Absolutely.
By the way, speaking of pizza, just real quick. Somebody said I was on a certain kind of time. I'm on Sicilian time, people.
Oh Lord. Oh,
just so everybody knows, and that's keeping it real, 100%.
That's what CT time.
Oh, S.
S. Dang, that's terrible. Yeah, Sicilian.
SB time.
SB time.
Yeah, it's it's a classic. It takes us 4 hours to say goodbye. There's like a stage. There's like stages of saying goodbye.
Right.
The initial goodbye, and then there's all the things that happen, and then there's 4 hours later you get the final stage. Anyways,
well, that's like the black church.
That's like church. Yeah, I was about to say that's fellowship when you're trying to get home. Right.
Every black preacher must be Sicilian. Then you know what I'm saying? It's like 4 or 5.
I'm about to finish. But check it out. If you can unshare if you could stop sharing for a minute, Adam, I want to share a few things about this particular topic.
All right, cool. And I'm gonna cue up the next clip.
Yes, sir. All right. So, bread and circus, right? This term comes from Domitius Junius Juvenalis. I think that's how you say it.
Juvenile.
maybe he got it from there. Who knows?
Right.
Which the name is from Egypt, because you notice Juva Nile. Well, that's what I'm telling you right. And Jew is because the Jews invaded Egypt.
Wow.
Oh, snap.
Make it look like white people were the original inhabitants. So it's Jew Nile, but it's got the V in the middle, which is verses. So it's Jew versus Nile, Jew v Nile, showing you that the own country is at war with its foreign invaders.
The Jews are against the Kemetic. So the Kemetic shouldn't be getting along, right?
Basically that's the moral of the story. Thank you and good night.
I'm sorry. Let me stop.
No, that was great. I mean, you're being silly, but you're not far from their style of argumentation. They do that quite a bit, and we're going to see that throughout this interview. But so the quote "bread and circus" comes from here. Already long ago, from when we sold our vote to no man, the people have abdicated our duties for the people who once upon a time handed out military command, high civil office, legions, everything now restrains itself and anxiously hopes for just two things: bread and circus. Right? Now, from Roman Circus Arenas for Chariot Racing by John H. Humphrey, he says that the circus was Rome's largest venue for ludi, public games connected to Roman religious festivals. Ludi were sponsored by leading Romans or the Roman state for the benefit of the Roman people, populace Romanus, and gods. Most were held annually or at annual intervals on the Roman calendar. Others might be given to fulfill a religious vow, such as the games in celebration of a triumph. In Roman tradition, the earliest triumphal ludi at the circus were vowed by Tarquin the Proud to Jupiter in the late regal era of his victory over Pomatia. So there was a spiritual and religious aspect to these events. It wasn't just entertainment. This was part of their theological paradigm, right? So now, Juvenile. Well, Juvenile.
Looks like it, man.
Yeah, right. Here makes reference to the Roman practice of providing free wheat to Roman citizens, as well as costly circus games and other forms of entertainment as a means of gaining political power, as Vocab mentioned earlier. The Ananoa grain doll was begun under the instigation of the popularious politician Gaius Sempronius Gracchus in 123 BC. It remained an object of political contention until it was taken under the control of the autocratic Roman emperors. So it's religious festivals that was used to gain political power by the elite, right? It was a way to, he did say, to distract, right? Now, of course, the NOI would never be involved in anything that remotely looks like bread and circus, right? Like they wouldn't have a championship boxer as part of NOI or a rapper, in full NOI regalia at the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival. Shout out to Jay Electronica. Like they wouldn't do that now, would they? It's like, because we don't want to distract the people from what's really happening.
Man, I'm telling you right now, and I'm not advocating, I'm not encouraging people to go listen to Jay Electronica's work. Man, that's something for their own conscience. But anyway, with respect to the new joint, I did check it out because I figured there'd be some material on there that I might want to critique.
Yeah, he can spit.
You can't listen to Jay Electronica for like 5 seconds without him referring to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Farrakhan, or something related to the NOI. You know what I'm saying? That's just, it's like in every verse. You know what I'm saying?
If syncretism was a rapper, It'd be Jay Electronica.
Right.
Because he puts everything. He sprinkle a little Hindu, throws a little Hebrew Israelite with a heavy dosage of the NOI, and it's this theological gumbo, and out comes Jay Electronica. So,
but you know what though? I think, and actually we'll see it in a minute. I think Rizza Islam, there's a little bit of that in him too, though. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing he's gonna say. I'm trying to point it out, but he's got a little bit of that in him as well. But anyway, to your point though, there's a number of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know what I'm saying? My understanding is that he was or is.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Vocab agrees, but I agree with you, Kublaze. Yeah, Jay-Z spanked him though. That's facts.
Yeah, it's not even arguable.
That's facts.
That's not even arguable.
That's facts. Vocab doesn't agree, but that's okay.
What?
Jay-Z's overrated.
Yo, Jay Electronica has been telling us about.
We're about to ban you from the channel, bro.
Jay-Z's got his own version. Hey, Jay-Z's got his own version of Stans.
No, really? It's like that? It's like that? Put a beat on. We're gonna settle this.
Like real talk, Jay Electronica. I don't want to get too far, but that man has spit like the same 5 bars for like the last 15 years, dog. Like real rap. Like he's like literally saying stuff now on his new album, his debut album, that he said in like 2007, B, like word for word. I'm sorry, but I can't. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Right. Not to troll off too much, but Nas. I prefer Nas, but Jay-Z is not overrated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a big one.
My problem with Jay-Z is what I told Alfredo today. He made being the entrepreneurial drug empire hustler, he made that like respectable.
No, wait a minute now. You got to do your homework, Vocab. Come on, bro. Talk about Cool G Rap, brother.
He's one of the progenitors of that. He definitely is.
Man.
Cool G Rap was trying to
tell you that.
Cool G Rap was trying to be on mafioso rap. But Cool G Rap never had the level of influence of Jay-Z.
And Spoonie G from Philadelphia, PSA. That's considered the first gangster record.
I didn't wait. Hold on, guys. I didn't say nothing about gangster rap. I didn't say Jay-Z was the first gangster rapper. I'm saying he made it be like it's respectable.
True.
He's got the scar with the tattoo in the hand, and then all of a sudden everyone New York. Now you got the New Yorkers singing, but you also got Basics singing it. You know what I mean? It's just
right. You're right.
You know what? I can tell already. This live is gonna be like 5 hours long. Yeah.
It's going that right. Yeah. So before this becomes the Joe Budden podcast, let's get to the next the next clip.
Oh man, it was something I was gonna say, but anyway,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My point was, hip hop alone. I'm saying like it has always had a strong NOI element. As a matter of fact, in this very interview, Noriega says, in my mind, I consider myself as being NOI. You know what I'm saying? Like that's always been a part. So again, you got to be careful about people kind of stacking the deck in favor of their favorite conspiracy theory, and then not being consistent in applying their analysis to the forms of entertainment that they want to engage in. No. That's what kind of wanted You
should have said, now if you're NOI, why are you named NORE? After a South American.
You're doing so good, man.
No.
Doing so good.
Named. My point is this: by the way, the NOI does stuff like that. Like they'll say,
they do.
That's true.
They'll say we're not against white Jesus. We're just for the right Jesus. Or they'll say, what's a word? The phrase.
What my favorite one was Nuri Muhammad. He was like, Malcolm wasn't killed by the FOI.
That's it.
By the FBI. And stuff like that. It's like but they all get that from Farrakhan though. Right. Funny, but
wordplay.
That's what I was talking about earlier. I can't remember if he was on not Vocab, but they're trying to find that successor to Farrakhan, and a lot of these new guys kind of carry that swag, that Farrakhan type vibe with them. You know what I'm saying? That's where it comes from.
Yeah, so my point by saying that though is Noriega is named after a South American dictator.
Drug lord, right. Oh, dictator, right.
Or whatever it is. Like
Capone's a gangster.
And then Capone is named after a Sicilian mobster. I'm saying like it's odd to hear that podcast because they're talking like Capone and Noriega was a conscious group or something. I don't know.
right.
I'm
starting to sense a little Italian supremacy coming from you.
Wait, what is that? What?
That's right.
Now the NOI is going to take that clip. And anyways.
All right. Next clip.
There we go.
Because I feel a part of it, but
yes, sir.
So now when we speak about Christianity, right?
Yes.
The further I got in my life, I heard, and I'm not sure. You let me know that Christianity was a religion that was placed upon us when we got to America. Like when we were supposedly back in Africa, they were Muslims, they were vegetarians, they were things of that nature. Yes. But is that true that when blacks became Christians is when we was brought over on the Santa, the Pinta, the
Europeans? Yeah, absolutely. We first of all, let's make this very clear, because some people say, well, Islam enslaved people, Christianity enslaved people. That is absolutely correct. However, you're dealing with the Caucasian using Islam and Christianity to enslave people. Make that very clear, because I can say I'm a Muslim. Right. But if I do something to you that's against Islam, I ain't no Muslim. I'm a devil using the name of Islam to do devilishment. Same thing with Christianity. There were Christians who were early Christians that were not under Jesus the way people portray him. You're talking about Ethiopian Christians. You're talking about those who practice a system long before the Caucasian was even here. So Christianity, when we were brought into slavery, it was a bastardized white supremacist form of sun worship. Using Jesus, the white version, or the white man, or Caesar Borgia, the picture of that white man, as God. And they put that on us. So ergo, psychologically, we're believing that now God is a white man. You see, so they put that on us during slavery. Yeah, the majority of our ancestors were Muslims coming over here, meaning one who submits his or her will to do the will of God. That's all Muslim means. If you want to do what God says to do, you want to submit to do God's will, you're a Muslim. That's the actual definition of the word. So that's specifically
Right. Gotta get him.
You mentioned Chester de Borgia.
So what part, there's a lot there to take from. So
I mean, notice how whatever the guest says is like, he's got such a level of credibility, which I don't know if he deserves. Certainly, he's not like a Hebrew Israelite or anything like that. And I have a level of respect for the NOI. So in all seriousness, I know I joke around, but I respect the NOI in a lot of ways, and I respect what he's trying to do in a certain manner of speaking, and all that. But it's tough. It's like you see the level of credibility. Do you think they would grant the level of credibility to Christian apologists, or maybe if they had a pastor on who had some further studies or something like that, if they would even invite that kind of person on? I don't know. It's just tough. So the point is not to whine about that. The point is to say, just to kind of remind us that the gap is real. The credibility gap that we face is real. The culture gap, and it comes up numerous times in the interview. Basically, they say again and again and again, and I'm just prefacing this. I know we're going to get into what he just said here. Basically, the preachers I felt like they were always judging me. And with the NOI, I felt like they were there with me, just they were there with us out there, not just looking down on us. And, there's some things there where it's not entirely the church's fault, where it's a response of the natural man to the gospel. But there's also a level, I think, where we can hear the critics, hear the seed of truth inside there. And I'm just recognizing, when you hear these questions, just recognize, everybody, the gap is large that we have to face in the culture, online, everything. And it's tough. So, I joke, but these interviews also make me sad to an extent, to be honest. Like when I hear that, and that's a question that gets asked, and then his answer, which is not, it's not as bad of an answer as you could give, but it's still pretty bad.
Yes, it's a mixed bag, man. It's a mixed bag. I mean, to your point, I think that that is something to be aware of. Like, I know, like growing up in the Black community, you're often taught that as a Black man or a Black woman, you got to work 10 times harder than anybody else to have your work be respected equally. You know what I'm saying? Because of the stigma, because of cultural racism and what have you. You know what I'm saying? I think in this instance, it's kind of like that when it comes to Christians going into these kinds of environments. The reason Islam is in. You know what I'm saying? Like the deck is already stacked against you, especially if you're a pastor. Then you already, are behind the 8 ball. You know what I mean? Unless you got somebody who's already in that setting, who rocks with you, then people are already giving you the side eye. I mean, with that being said, shoot, I would love to see somebody like an Eric Mason or somebody like that, who's in the urban apologetics community, get a chance to, go on the Breakfast Club or go on Drink Champs or whatever, or like a Damon Richardson, one of these guys, and get on and have a discussion with Riza Islam, because it's kind of like, you know, I mean, it's like that scripture is in Proverbs, where it's like a man is right in his own eyes until his neighbor comes and sees him, basically, you know, and kind of ferrets things out. That's the Adam Coleman version, yo. The paraphrase, you know. But I feel like it's kind of like that, you know, with guys like Riza Islam, because, you know, he doesn't have anybody, you know, from our end of the table who's jousting with him, you know what I'm saying, and can really call him to the carpet, because, like you said, I mean, or like I was saying, it's like a mixed bag. And, you know, what makes it difficult, I think, to engage somebody like this is because there's going to be like some aspects that I agree with and are true. And then you have this other stuff that's like super incorrect and it's all cobbled together. And when you put the whole shebang together, you end up with like this flawed picture of history or whatever it is that they're talking about. And so because they're not having somebody like us giving pushback right then and there, it's easy for them to kind of just say whatever. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's what's up. Oh, man, that's deep. You know, there's nobody really giving any pushback. And matter of fact, I mean, not to monopolize the conversation, but I feel like that's what's going on right now with the conscious community. I mean, they know that we out here now. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like they are having to look over their shoulder or be more careful about what they say, you know what I'm saying? Because there are people that, you know, are going to respond now, which I think is an awesome thing. So, but you got to watch that mixed bags. Dr. Umar Johnson, you know, does this stuff all the time, man. I mean, he'll string together like unrelated historical facts or loosely related historical facts and then mingle them together with poor logic. But he tells a good story, so it sounds compelling. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so you always have to be careful about that, man. You know,
right. I found it interesting about how he didn't just say, well, yeah, the white man gave us Christianity. He was slightly more nuanced than I expected. Sure.
Yep.
You know, he did speak about that there was, you know, prior to the transatlantic slave trade, there were people of color who practiced this particular belief system. But I think he was kind of handcuffed in saying that because a lot of times, you know, the Abrahamic faiths get dissected together. So It's like he kind of had to give some love to Christianity.
Yeah.
So that he don't look so bad with his paradigm.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like he was forced to kind of give it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, another thing, to kind of piggyback on that too. One thing I don't want to put too, you know, or just put words in his mouth or make too many assumptions, but the way that he defined Islam, I'm saying if you just submit to God, then you're a Muslim, is so extremely broad that first of all, no Orthodox Muslim would recognize the way that he's characterizing Islam.
You have to say the Shahada in the presence of witnesses.
Right.
On any normal understanding of Islam, you got to say that. Now, there's rare exceptions to that. That's why I say any normal as in Orthodox. You have to say Shahada. You have to do so in the presence of witnesses. He has this real kind of general bland. It's almost like, you know, Jesus said the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor. And so if anyone loves their neighbor, they're being like Jesus, obeying his command. Therefore, they're Christians. You know,
right.
If you want to kind of, you know, do that. But it is interesting. The NOI of 2020 is more ecumenical than the NOI of 1960. And
hey, I don't want to cut you off, but like, you mind if I play a couple more seconds of that clip? Because I think he actually says some things along those lines, and I think it'll highlight where you're going with. Do you mind if I just share that real quick?
Oh yeah, I do got something I wanted to say about Chester de Bosch, when we get to it. But
yeah, I definitely want to do that. Yeah, I want to get to that as well. But all right, get it.
Yeah.
Organizational.
No. So you don't have to take your Shahada.
Religion. It just means you submit to do the will of God. Now, then you get to the political stuff. Then you get to am I a Sunni, a Shia, Nation Islam. Hey.
I've always wondered that. What is the NOI either or?
No, we're simply Muslims.
Not Shia, not Sunni.
The whole Quran says Muslim. Okay. We're just Muslims. Now, you want to get into that cultural, political nonsense? See something on that game banging? Well, I believe that this person should rule. Which is
gang banging.
That's gang banging. Yeah. Spiritual gang banging. Yeah. Religious gang banging. We ain't into
which is crazy.
No, bro. So to answer your question, yes, it was put on us in that way. They put the Bible.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to highlight there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, I mean, kind of coinciding with what he was saying before, it's like this real slippery definition of what Islam is or what being a Muslim is. Because Noriega specifically asked, like, so you like to say the Shahada? You know what I'm saying? Like, he asked that question. And to your point, you know, vocab, I mean, yeah, obviously you do. Like, any Orthodox Muslim will tell you that you got to say the Shahada, fam. Like, if you're not doing that, you know, what is it? Allah is whatever.
Allah and Muhammad is his messenger or something like that.
Right. I mean, that's like, Islam 101. You know what I mean? But he's painting it as if like once you kind of get beyond his broad definition, then you're getting into what he referred to as spiritual gangbanging. And my thing with that is I don't want to use the word deceptive. You know what I'm saying? Because this is my first time encountering this guy, so I don't want to be too strong with that. But it's very misleading. It's very misleading because the fact of the matter is, if you're in the NOI, you have a particular worldview. You believe there are specific things that are true about God, true about the world, true about how you should behave, true about whether you should eat pork or not, and all those kinds of things. So like to kind of give this notion that, well, if you're just following God, then you're a Muslim, that's very misleading. Because he actually said that most of our enslaved ancestors that came over here was Muslims. And that is a highly suspect claim.
Yeah, that's not right.
That is a highly suspect claim.
Sweeping generalization.
Ridiculous. I mean, and now, of course, here's the thing. We know that there were some enslaved persons who were Muslims. I'm saying
highest estimate I've ever heard is 10%, and I'm not sure if that's right. I think that's more certain regions that may have been as high as 10%. But
right.
it's hard to tell exactly right, but we have some idea about it.
Right. And so when you think about the Caribbean, when you think about certain parts of like I'm thinking like South Carolina, New Orleans, like we see like these ripple effects or these echoes of West African religion, you know what I'm saying, in the various different places where slaves were taken. What you don't see is like a prominence of Islam, you know what I'm saying, in any of these areas. You don't see that. Why? Yeah. Because there was no predominance of Muslims coming across on the transatlantic slave trade. That's flat out false.
Perfect example is the route. The route, like you got, especially like in the South and like South Carolina, that's like a thing that people still do. Like, hey, watch out for Aunt so and so. She'll put the root on you. That's not a remnant of Islam. That's a remnant of certain West African forms of spirituality. But notice how he just checks out of the Sunni Shia divide. It almost is a sort of a implicit admission or a tacit admission that we're not really Orthodox Muslims, because you can't get checked out of that divide. I understand he can say, because, again, no diss to the host, but how much do they know about that? And so he can just check out of it. But that goes all the way back to 632, the early 7th century, right after the death of Muhammad. It was a big deal, The majority of Muhammad's followers at the time, they said that the other members of the Ummah, that means Islamic community, they can essentially choose the successor. But then there was a smaller group, a smaller percentage, and these are today those that are sometimes called Shia Muslims. They said, no, it only needed to be somebody from Muhammad's family. And in this case, it was his cousin and son-in-law, Ali. And so the followers of Ali, Shia Ali, became known as the Shia. They're about 15%. This is a big deal in the Muslim world. Iraq and Iran, one of the reasons they were at odds in the 80s is because of the Sunni Shia split. So it's a big deal. And then even within Sunni Islam, there's these different schools of jurisprudence, and there's Salafi Islam, and then there's sort of radical wings of Salafi, and that's where you get most of, not all, but most of what would be called or understood to be terrorist groups, such as ISIS. And they actually believe part of what they are supposed to do is to actually kill Muslims who are not faithful to pure forms of Islam. The best example I can think of besides the Shia are the Quran onlyists. Now, they're a massive minority, but they're actually Muslims who believe we got to do away with all the hadith, all this tafsir literature, all this other literature that informs our reading of the Quran, and they only hold to the Quran. And they're viewed as total heretics. So, I mean, I'm just saying this is it's really cheap and easy to kind of just check out of it.
Right.
But I mean, the Muslim world, if they hear this is why they don't really view NOI as really legit. And it's like, how can you just ignore this? This is a big deal because it affects what hadith literature you take as valid. And that's funny. The last thing I'll say on this, we got a lot of love. Now, I don't want to overstate the case, but we did get love from Shia Muslims when we did Islamicize Me, which those who don't know was a parody or a satirical understanding of Islam where we practice things literally from the sources, because they said almost all the sources you're using are Sunni sources, and you are saying some of the same things we say to the Sunni.
Wow.
This is a real thing, because they're like, yeah, that's right. Those are bad sources. That's why we don't follow those sources.
Wow.
So she actually vibe with it. So you can't just check out of these discussions. I mean, it may sound like you're above sort of, but it's kind of historically myopic, to say the least, you know.
I'm curious to know.
Henry just said, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just curious to know if it doesn't really matter. Can I be Sunni and be NOI then? Would I be allowed to identify as that and still be part of the nation?
Right.
You know?
I mean, it's cool with everybody. So you can be spiritually gangbanging all day. And I mean, he shouldn't have nothing to say about it, right?
Right.
Because he's not making any stipulations beyond like this broad definition. Now, MJ said something interesting. MJ said that
Muhammad gangbang, by the way. Go ahead.
Huh?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you were Muhammad himself spiritually gangbanged.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Please. Yeah. Absolutely. Matter of fact, we should come back to that. Yeah. But I mean, the NOI, excuse me, you know, MJ Jackson said the NOI are the equivalents of Jehovah's Witnesses. And you know what? I think that's actually a pretty good parallel. I mean, because, you know, to Vocab's point, Malcolm X himself, I'm saying in like some of his later interviews, he straight up said, he said, man, Elijah Muhammad can't go over to the Muslim world. You can't go over there talking about Elijah Muhammad is the next messenger of nothing. He said they'll kill you on the spot. He said this is Malcolm X said that himself. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, so as he was kind of, I think, pushing past the NOI to get more in sync with actual Islam, realized that wait a minute, these NOI is doing some stuff that's not legit.
Especially Fard Muhammad being the manifestation of Allah.
Yeah.
If they think Christians commit shirk because we say the second person of the Trinity is Jesus Christ, it's a whole nother level when you say Allah himself was made manifest through W.D. Fard Muhammad.
Right.
Because that's what they believe. So shirk, everyone is associating partners with Allah. You're actually saying this silk and this silk salesman from Detroit in the 30s, you're saying that's a manifestation of Allah. You know what I mean? You're saying that is Allah. That's what they would say.
And then the next candidate for the Boom Boom Room.
We did it in NOI. We did it in NOI. Boom Boom.
Did you do it for Farad Muhammad?
Well, it wasn't Farad Muhammad, but we talked a little bit about that.
Or Ford, Mr. Ford, I should say.
Yeah, who knows what? That's actually there's a lot of debate there, but we talked.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But these are big things, you know, because these guys claim to be Muslim, but it's like there's some problems there.
Yeah, man. I think at the end of now, I don't want to monopolize too much, but this reminded me of I had Nefertiti on my show a couple months ago, on my channel rather. People should definitely check out her channel. You know, as a matter of fact, we were talking about we were breaking down a video like this where you had a bunch of African spiritualists, if you will, people who practice West African spirituality rather. And it was interesting because some of the younger ones were talking about like, oh yeah, I can do this and I can do that. And it's more freedom than Christianity and so on and so forth. And it was funny because one of the older, she appeared to be older, but at least more advanced in those spiritual systems. She was like, oh nah, you can't just do whatever you want to do. There's rules to this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to come correct. You can't just come to the Orishas any old kind of way. You got to do what they say. And if they tell you to do this, you got to do it. And it was funny because they wanted, like the younger ones wanted to embrace this kind of flimsy, do whatever you like version of West African spirituality. And those who was like, true to the game was like, oh no, no. There's rules to this. And I feel like that's kind of what Reza Islam is doing too. He's got like this kind of flimsy, vague, broad perspective of Islam. But if you're really going to be a Muslim, no, there's rules and regulations that come along with it. I guarantee you, this man's not going to eat a pepperoni pizza right there with the Brothers No Drink Champs. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because it's things that they do or don't do. You know what I'm saying? And so I thought it was misleading to be that broad. Really.
And another thing I found interesting is it's old talking points repackaged for a younger audience. Because he brings up the whole Caesar Borgia. You know what I mean? And I remember Master Killer, Sons of Men back in the days, bringing up Caesar Borgia and all that. Right. And I've never seen, I've researched, I've never seen a direct connection between the two. In fact, by saying that, I would like to share my screen.
Cesare Borgia.
There you go. There you go. Hold up.
This is good. You're doing double duty here. BK.
This live chat is dope, man.
Yeah, I know it's filled with apologists and theologians.
It's dope. These guys in here getting it. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, so vocab, can you say it one more time?
I was just saying you're doing double duty because the Hebrew Israelites love the
I think you're talking about the Caesar Borgia name.
Yeah,
in regards to Cesare Borgia, the Hebrew Israelites make this claim as well. So you when we talk about this, is dealing with BHI as well as NOI art history.
Well, I think we just wanted you to do the sound effect, man.
Yeah, I wanted this.
Yeah. Well, right now, go ahead if you could, BK, and speak on Cesare Borgia.
Nice. So Caesar, that guy, Duke of Valentinius, Italian Duke of Valentino, right? Born 1475, probably died around 1507. The dates are really important, right? Because now, of course, the claim is that the portrait of what we know as Jesus is a derivative of this particular individual, right? Who was born 1475. But the thing is, we have other portraits that look eerily similar to Mr. Borgia, such as the Christ Pantocrator of St. Catherine's Monastery at Sinai is one of the oldest Eastern Roman religious icons, but it's dating from the 6th century, though. Right? Way before there was a Caesar Borgia, right? What about this one?
Go back real quick.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Hey, that's the Jesus doing a Jedi mind trick. You see his hands there?
These are not the droids you're looking for. Nice. Here's another Christ Pantocrator in the Church of Santa Pendezina in Rome. It's a Roman mosaic. This was 1410 AD.
1410 AD.
Right?
Yep.
What about this mural painting of Jesus from the catacomb of Comodilla dating from the late 4th century? They all kind of look similar. And this is hundreds of years prior to Mr. Borgia. So it's like
you got that natural curl, that natural bounce.
Got that soul glow.
Then you got this Byzantine mosaic of Jesus dated around 526 AD. So again, we have this similar look. Now, mind you, this is an artist's rendition, the expression of how they envision Christ, right? We're not saying that this is an actual historical depiction of this individual. This is what the artists have rendered it as such.
And even going into the early Renaissance, you see prior to Cesare Borgia, you see Giotto di Bondone had a really well-known mural, 1305, called The Lamentation of Christ. Kind of looks like a white man with long brown hair. Sandro Botticelli, 1487, Madonna the Pomegranate. Similar. Even the classic Ecce Homo, This Is the Man.
Yes.
That also antedates it, but he can look similar there. Ducci di Buonisegina, I don't know, early 1300s, Christ's farewell to his apostles. So there's a lot. Bondone's Last Supper. These are earlier. You see a pale skinned Jesus in artworks from 1250 centuries prior, and so it's like, okay, and it's interesting if you had some Jesuses modeled after Cesare Borgia later on, they'd have to be of him like young because he died at the age of 31. Just saying. I mean, I'm not saying I'm just saying, but we'd have to have some better evidence. The only evidence I've seen is people quote something that Alexander Dumas supposedly said, or the guy who did Three Musketeers and the Count of Monte Cristo. But that's the only evidence I've ever seen, and I don't know what they're, he's a historian, but that's not even. So it's like, where does this evidence come from? But the problem is, people think when we argue against that claim, we're then saying Jesus really was white. No,
right.
We're just saying you're pinning it on the wrong. You're pinning on the wrong guy. There are people portraying Jesus in those ways before that. We're not saying because he looked like that. We're just saying it was prior to the advent of Cesare Borgia.
And that's a great.
That's the thing is that. Go ahead.
Well, that was a great segue because has the depiction of Jesus being white been used to subjugate people of color? Yes, that is true. So we're not saying that hasn't happened, right? In fact, in the book, The Color of Christ, the Son of God, and the Saga of Race in America, says here that the Ku Klux Klan could not rely on Christian doctrine to justify their persecution and violence, so they had to turn to religious icons. Quote, the value that Jesus is white provides an image in place of text. It gets them away from actually having to quote chapter and verse, which they can't really do to present their cause.
Yeah, it's just a shortcut. Right. That's the word for them. Those images, some of which were not. If you read that book, part of what it says is some of these images were not created to prop up some system that would come later, but people co-opted those images to use in that system. And that book is a really, really good book. I think it's one of the best books on this subject, the Color of Christ book. I read that almost from cover to cover, and that is a really well-written book, a really important book to understand this topic better. I've got a couple other ones, that maybe you could recommend sometime, but like that's a great book.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And Michael VD Vlies actually made a point in the chat. This chat is killing right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and read this. He said, just ask a kid to draw a house, they will draw it according to the architecture in countries. I think that's in their countries. I think is what he was trying to say, and I think that's right. I mean, like in all cultures, people draw what they see. That's just what it is. Now we can say that once they do so, they may then take it a step further to use art in a way that they ought not to have. And then in this case, I mean, certainly, the white Jesus thing was used as a spiritual battering ram, if you will. So I don't think anybody here is denying that. It's just that we want to be accurate in when we present things. I'm saying it's not the case that even as much as it floats around the internet, this whole Caesar Borgia thing is not well substantiated. You know what I'm saying? You have different people drawing Jesus according to what they, how they envision it. I'm saying based upon the people that they see every day, they drew Jesus accordingly. That's just what it is.
What Did Jesus Look Like by Joan E. Taylor is a really another great book on this subject. It's multifaceted. It really helps you understand it. Cool.
So if you guys had nothing else to add on, we could get to the next clip, Mr. Coleman.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oops. I almost pushed play without sharing my screen, which would have done us all no good at all. All right. Let me make sure I'm at my. Okay. Yeah. All right. There we go.
On is the manipulated 1611 King James version of the Bible, which there are well over 20 different versions long before the King James, right? Let's make that very clear. But they put that one on us, and they wouldn't let us read it, but they would read it to us, and they would read only the scriptures that would talk about slaves being good to their masters, the book of Peter, slaves obey the masters the same way you would obey Christ. Treat your slave worse if he's not a Christian versus the one who is a Christian. This is all in the Bible. Don't get mad at me, look it up. Wow. It's all in the book. So
it's all in the book, guys.
It's all in the book.
It's all in the book. Trust them.
Crazy, man.
He's given the KJV fits right there because he's mentioning the fact that there were other translations into English before the King James version, and that's true. The Great Bible, the Bishop's Bible, Matthew's Bible. I think there's one called Coverdale, Geneva Bible. I think also. And you had translators, Wycliffe, Tyndale, who translated prior to King James assembling those Anglican scholars together.
Right.
And so that's true. That's just the fact of the history of translation, only from only into English, though. So I mean, that's true. But that's just the history of translation,
which is completely different than the Quran, right? Because we have the exact translation that Muhammad got from Jibril, right? That's what we have, right?
Well, the history of the Quran's transmission is an interesting discussion because there's a few things. One is the fact of something called the Uthmanic recension. I don't know how deep NOI gets into stuff like this, so I've never heard him speak on this. I'm not claiming to be the expert on the Uthmanic recension, but it's just a fact. And here's the short version of it. There were various versions of the Quran floating around. Now, some of it was through people orally reciting it, and some of it was copies written down.
Right.
And this information is all from the Hadith literature itself. Now, the average Muslim apologist will just say, those are just difference in dialects. But according to some of the men who Muhammad himself were the best reciters of the Quran. In fact, one man, he said, if you want to know what the Quran says, ask this guy. There are actually chapters that, according to some sources, should have been added, and in other sources should have been taken away. So these are real differences, and there are differences in words. So that's just a fact. What happened is Uthman commissioned this great project of going and collecting all the copies that existed at the time to make a master authoritative copy. And the guy who was tasked with it said, how am I supposed to do this? And then if you read the sources, it says they collected them from the bones of animals,
right?
Rocks,
animal skins, right.
And from men's chests or men's heart, which means the recitation of it. So if you think about, a bone or a rock, that's saying it's only fragmentary also, by the way. So they're putting it all together after they made the master copy, which then what he said is to unify Islam, because people were getting in fights about it. People were actually fighting in the mosque when they heard different recitations of certain surahs. And again, this is all in the hadith literature. So what happened is after they put out that master one, they burnt
the rest,
all
right?
the prior copies. So they literally erased the history prior. And one time David Wood and Nabil, when he was alive, pointed that out when Terry Jones, that wild pastor down there in Florida, who I heard now works as a short order cook in a restaurant. That's really what I heard. Wow. Like, no joke. He was, was going to burn the Quran and all that. They were like, hey, yeah, Uthman already had to burn the Quran day. He centuries prior. You know what I mean? What are you so upset about? Uthman already did this. Right. And so that means it's literally erased. And so that's a fascinating thing. Not only that, the current base text that is used was just put out. It wasn't done with any great forethought. It was just, some of the universities and the government there worked together to kind of get the base Arabic text, of which most Qurans are translated out of. And I think that was in like 1925 when that was done. The version, the underlying text of what most Qurans are done. And so I don't know if he realizes that, but see, the thing is, we know they don't even really hold hard and fast to the Quran. You listen to Farrakhan speak, he's quoting the Bible a lot of times more than he really is the Quran anyway. But these guys call themselves Muslims, so they've got to, they got to deal with the text of the book that they're going to hold up. So there's a lot there. But
man, we got some straight Muslim scholars here in the chat, bro. I'm trying to tell you, man. Carmel Crunk busting out with dates and times and facts. Alton Johnson, I can't pronounce the name, but Flies out here, man. It's wild, man.
Yeah, we got
an armada out here, man. But I want to speak to that point too about what he said. Oh shoot, what did he say at the end of that clip that I just played? I might have to play it back. Darn it, I can't remember. Yeah, somebody else go. I got to remember I lost my train of thought. But it's something he said right at the end of that clip that I wanted to comment on. I can't remember what it was now.
Well, if somebody wants a good book on textual criticism in the Quran, which is in essence what I was just speaking on, look to the work of Keith Small. Keith Small is one of the is a really good guy to grab stuff on that if someone's looking into that larger issue.
You don't mind if I play it again right quick, just so I get it?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, let me do it because I know I lost my train of thought.
Right, let's make that very clear. But they put that one on us, and they wouldn't let us read it, but they would read it to us, and they would read only the scriptures that would talk about slaves being good to their masters. The book of Peter, slaves obey your masters the same way you would obey Christ. Treat your slave worse if he's not a Christian versus the one who is a Christian. This is all in the Bible. Won't get mad when you look it up.
Wow.
That's what it was. All right.
What verse is that?
Yeah, what verse is that, fam?
What verse is that?
That's what I wanted to comment on. Now, first of all, to his credit, yeah, I agree. I mean, that you had slave masters picking and choosing certain verses to subjugate African enslaved persons. There's no doubt about that occurred. You know what I'm saying? So I don't disagree with that. But it's like I say all the time, it's kind of like, I could drive my car to get from point A to point B, or I could drive it to, run somebody over in vehicular manslaughter style. You know what I'm saying? Like if I were to go murder somebody with my car, you're not going to go boycott, car factories or something like that. You're saying, because obviously I've used my car for some purpose for which it was not intended. You're saying, likewise, Christianity, you have people using it for reasons for which it was not intended. But to his point, though, I think you'd be hard pressed to find any scripture, verse, or whatever where the instruction or command for the enslaver is to treat Christian slaves or non-Christian slaves worse than the Christian ones. I don't know where he got that from. But I would love to, see book, chapter, and verse. I would love to see that.
Unlike Muhammad, who did have different types of treatment for Muslim slaves and non-Muslim slaves.
Yeah, so the shoe was on the other foot, right?
Right.
Or maybe he was thinking of the Quran as opposed to.
Yeah. It seems like he's alluding to the slave Bible there, right? I think he's
right.
Not that we want to minimize that reality, but everything I've seen, and this was pointed me out by someone else. Someone else pointed this out to me, and I was like, "Whoa!" And actually, Miss Titus 2 has a good video on this, by the way, as well. Shout out to that. Maybe drop the link.
Titus 2,
but it was only done in Britain's Caribbean colonies. Right. This wasn't something that was in the United States.
Right. Interesting.
Right.
The actual slave Bible. I'm not saying there wasn't shady business happening, but even it's a simplistic rendition of the idea. And Nefertiti's done really good work of bringing out different things. How folks, how you have so-called masters didn't want enslaved persons to read the Bible in a lot of instances because then they would get the idea that they were, whoa, brothers and sisters, or things like that. Not to say there weren't abuses that happened. I'm just saying sometimes the narrative is presented as a bit can be simplistic. But again, even with that being said, to his credit, this is still better than what you get from your average Hebrew Israelite or Kemet product.
Sure, absolutely.
In my view. So I'm not just saying, I appreciate nuance, and he's trying to have a little bit, it seems like, in there. So,
Yeah, and that's why I'm very careful. I don't want to. I think there are people in the conscious community who I do believe are intentionally deceptive.
Right.
This guy right here, I wouldn't put that on him. I really feel like he's probably, to whatever extent that he could, he's probably done some studies and is at least trying to present history, with some respect to what actually happened. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's just mistaken. And we have to correct those things. So that bad information doesn't get out there. But I want to make sure I'm making that clear. I'm not trying to disparage the guy.
He strikes me as sincere and authentic and genuine.
I agree.
And what he believes and what he's trying to present. That's my reading of him. We don't know anyone's heart, but I do agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we did the critique of Jabari, what I'm saying, Brother Jabari, who hopefully he's recovering from COVID and whatnot. Check out Titus 2's video on that as well. She did a video addressing the conscious community and coronavirus. We got prominent individuals, who've been infected by it. So definitely check out her video on that. But I mean, as far as Brother Jabari is concerned, we said about him, same thing. I'm certain that he really believes what he's saying. I don't think he's out here shucking and jiving for money or something like that. I think he's really sincere about his Kemeticism. And I kind of get the same thing from Risa Islam. I mean, whether we disagree or not, I think he's legit. I think he's genuine in any way. Not legit information wise, but in terms of
he's really coming from a sincere place. He's coming from a sincere place.
Yeah,
I agree.
Right. Cool.
All right, let's continue.
Next,
yes, sir.
Come on. I can't stand it no more.
Somebody said Django.
Django?
Yeah, Django was one of them.
Django was foul too, right?
Yeah, it was foul. The slave movies, we gotta stop. Yeah, we gotta stop with the slave movies. We need to see all the movies of our great ancestors and what they were doing. The empires, the kingdoms and how successful we were.
That's why I love Black Panther.
Black Panther.
I love it.
All about Mansa Musa. Huh? Black Panther was actually talking about Mansa Musa, the king of Mali. He was the richest man on the planet, a black man.
Oh, wow.
That's what Black Panther was talking about.
Oh.
All of that.
And there was a place in Africa as well, right?
Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
What is it called?
Wakanda. Okay.
What is it? What is it?
Wakanda.
Wakanda.
Yes,
Wakanda. That's like the concept of that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, the story is written as King T'Challa, or who was the Black Panther, was worth over $90.7 trillion. He had more money and more wealth than Batman, Iron Man, etc. That was the comic book. The only man who reached that type of wealth was Mansa Musa, the king of Mali, a black Muslim. He was the richest man on the planet to date. No one else is richer than that man. So that movie was fashioned after,
See, why is that publicized more?
They can't do this. They can't Superman as a black man.
Oh, I went too far.
Yeah, you can stop there. That's good.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, that's the name of the thing, MJ. It's called Drink Champ. So they actually have more bottles usually, but because there's an NOI, even though it's on his side, there is really ain't too many bottles out of respect. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, I mean, he says it is an interesting correlation between Mansa Musa and Black Panther. I could see why someone could come to that conclusion, but he's saying it in an authoritative manner as if that was the intent. And that's where I have to beg to differ, because if I can share my screen, if you could stop sharing, Adam.
Oh, I don't even see. I thought I took it off. My bad.
Yeah, thank you. So,
hey, when I get that stimulus check, man, I'm gonna be feeling like Mansa Musa out here, brother. Get that stimulus, dog.
So, article from Xavier Hamilton. He says, long before Wakanda was imagined, the real Black Panther once ruled the lands of Western Africa, and his name was Mansa Musa. Musa the first, known more commonly as Mansa Musa, was the 10th Mansa, a Mandinka word for emperor of the Mali Empire. He ruled the nation for nearly 25 years until his death in 1337, and is considered by many comic book gurus to be the muse for T'Challa and the Black Panther, although neither Kirby nor Stan Lee have proven these hypotheses. Fans would be hard-pressed to ignore the similarities between the two. But the people who actually created the character have never said of this alleged connection. And we know exactly what the origin is, because we have an actual interview of Stan Lee in the issue of Alter Ego, issue 104, August 2011, where they specifically asked Mr. Lee, where did the idea of Black Panther come from? This is Stan Lee's response. When I was a kid, I loved stories. I think the Phantom. No, the Phantom had a dog. Some character had a Black Panther. And I thought that was so dramatic when I read those stories, and I liked the name, the Black Panther. Lee continued. So I thought, okay, that'll be the hero. Now, what to do with him? It occurred to me, I set the scene, the stories in Africa. So he was referring to an earlier comic book that he loved as a kid, and he drew inspiration from that comic book to create what we see now as the Black Panther. So Mansa Musa, even though I see why you would say that, but from the actual creator's mouth, that was not what he was thinking when he was creating the Black Panther.
Yeah, as I was kind of fishing around looking for it, kind of track down maybe where he was coming from. I saw some sites where they were talking about, like you said, I mean, you know, people have made that parallel, but from the creators of the character, that's never been confirmed, you know. So again, and this is actually another point to bring up. Like, you always have to be careful about people overstating their case. You know, like you said, it's an interesting parallel. So, you know, I can see why somebody might think it's a possibility, but you can't authoritatively or you know, definitively say that that's the case. And I think, particularly in the conscious community, I think that's where a lot of people get into trouble. I'm thinking about, I'm not even going to put their names out there, but, you know, many times you'll see guys who will take a fringe theory, you know, in a particular area of scholarship, and they'll assert it as if it's like, you know, a respected or consensus view. You know what I'm saying? Without having enough knowledge of the field to understand that it's a fringe theory and thus should be, you know, handled with caution. You know what I'm saying? So you have to kind of, you know, take those things into account, I think.
Yep. It's interesting. It was from the Phantom. The Phantom is considered perhaps right along with Tarzan, the ultimate example of the white savior trope in movies. If you look into the Phantom, I'm just saying it's interesting that that's where apparently the inspiration comes from. You know,
that's wild.
Probably trying to create some sort of balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
balance to the force.
So yeah, so let's continue, because he brings up another character, right?
Oh, so, yeah, we about to get it. There you go.
All right, good.
He was the richest man on the planet to date. No one else is richer than that man. So that movie was fashioned after, you know.
See, why is that publicized more?
They can't do that. It's like they can't Superman as a black man. Don't get mad. Don't get mad.
Wait, tell us not to
Wait a minute.
I'm already going to look like you.
Did you say Superman is a black man?
Come on, no, you.
I ain't know this. I ain't know this.
It's all true, bro. Okay, Superman is a black man. Number one, his name is Kal-El. El is a Hebrew name. Okay, he gets his power from the sun, which means you must have melanin. Carbon 12. You be black. He had an S on his chest, but the original drawings was an upside down pyramid with a snake going through it in Egypt. You have all these different facts that connect, and he also was faster than a speeding bullet. The comic books that was written at the time during Adolf Hitler's race and Jesse Owens, the book and the two brothers, Siegel and Schuster, fashioned his speed after Jesse Owens because he beat Adolf Hitler. And then the comic book, it was Superman defeating Adolf Hitler. I can go down this list all day long. Superman was a black man. Don't get mad again.
So what happened in the interpretation of the author? What happened there?
Of course, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. Stan Lee said that he fashioned these cartoon characters, for example, Magneto and Professor.
Okay.
All right. So, Superman's a black man, guys. Breaking news. Breaking news.
Right.
How we feel about that particular claim?
They are looking at making Michael B. Jordan the next Superman. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, I've read that too.
Yeah.
Jack did it first. Shaquille O'Neal, Man of Steel, back in the 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Did he just Shazam though?
Yeah, but I mean, he was also who was that? I can't remember. Dang, what was his character? No, I think it was Man of Steel. I think he just called himself Man of Steel. He had like a metal suit, kind of like an Iron Man-ish type of a deal.
In a movie? Or are you talking about like the video game they made or something?
No, movie. He played
the comic book. Well, the comic book character came first, and then he played the comic book character in a movie.
Still.
Come on, man. Come on, vocab.
I just know about Shaq Fu, okay? You know?
Wow.
Oh, Shaq Fu. Yeah, actually, well, he had a good run because that came out around the same time, you know. But I mean, it's just one of those things. Again, it's just a matter of overstating your case. To me, the funniest part I thought, where he's talking about like Kyle L. You got it's like it's a L is a Hebrew name. Well, no, I mean actually, that's not exactly right. I mean, you've got the Canaanite god, who was named L. You know what I'm saying? So you can't exclusively pin that on Kyle L. on being Hebrew. And I could go further with that.
Right. You could say it's Semitic.
You can say it's Semitic. Yeah, that'd be fair. Yeah, that'd be fair to say.
Well, I'm about to nerd out.
Careful.
I'm about to nerd out something awful right now, so I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm going to really it's.
Are you going to say something about the melanin? I want to say something about the melanin thing, but I'm going to let you do your thing, though. I mean,
get your pocket protectors and your broken bifocals on, because we're going to get super nerdy right now.
Maybe Superman should if Superman is getting powered on photosynthesis, maybe he should be green.
Green.
Well, I'm going to talk about that too.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So, speaking of the word El, right? He says it's Hebrew. It's a continent. Forms are found throughout the Semitic languages, which includes the Ugaritic, Phoenician, Hebrew, Aramaic, Akkadian. In Northwest Semitic use, El was both a generic word for any god and the special name or title of a particular god who was distinguished from other gods as being, quote, the god. This is, of course, from Mark S. Smith, The Origins of Biblical Monotheism. In David Lehman's The Oxford Companion to Word Mythology, El is listed at the head of many pantheons. In some Canaanite and Ugaritic sources, El played a role as father of the gods or of creation, right? So it's not a Hebrew. It's not, it is part of the Semitic family tree, right? So he's not being 100%, honest. Well, I'm not going to say he's not being honest. I don't know if he knows, right? So
you can be more careful. Yeah.
Right. Now, let's get into some science, right?
Ooh.
Melanocytes insert granules of melanin into specialized cellular vesicles called melanosomes. These are then transferred into the keratinocyte cells of the human epidermis. The melanosomes in each recipient cell accumulate atop the cell's nucleus, where they protect the nuclear DNA from mutations caused by the ionizing radiation of the sun's ultraviolet rays. In general, people whose ancestors lived for long periods in the regions of the globe near the equator have larger quantities of eumelanin in their skins. This makes their skins brown or black and protects them against high levels of exposure to the sun, which more frequently result in melanomas in lighter skinned people. This is from the Human Skin Color Variation, Smithsonian Institute's Human Origins Program. So remember, he's saying, well, first of all humans have melanin. It's not just black people. Right? Everyone, if you're a human being, you have melanin. Now, he's saying that in order for him to be super strong, right, we know that Superman gets his strength from the UV rays from the sun. But here's the thing. If you have darker pigmentation, it's prevent you from getting the sun's UV rays. So he couldn't be black then.
Oh, snap.
Couldn't be black. If anything, he has to be even whiter than what he's been rendered in the comic books.
Right. He was
He'd be like
albino.
He white.
He was like an albino or something like that.
Right. He would have to be that.
Right. That's hilarious because that's what I was going to get on. Is like I thought it was kind of funny that he was trying to apply that much, scientific detail to a comic book, like as if in the comic book world they would have to obey the laws of chemistry, biochemistry. You know what I'm saying? As we do in the real world. I thought that was funny to begin with. But to your point, though, if you dig a little deeper, then actually it kind of goes against his claim.
Right. Oh, and we're not done yet.
Oh, okay.
We're not done yet.
There sort of has been a Black Superman also in the comics, Steel. I don't know.
What I was talking about.
Right.
Yeah. Well, is that the Shaq character too?
Yeah, Shaq played him in the movie.
Yeah, Shaq played Steel in the movie. Yeah.
Oh, because Steel's like supposed to be more serious. I didn't realize it was one and the same.
Yeah, DC don't know what they're doing when it comes to film adaptations, but that's a whole different.
John Henry Irons, after Doomsday killed Superman, he was one of the guys who came out. You see him depicted with like the sledgehammer and stuff. But okay, so that was the Shaq one. Well, okay, wow.
Yeah, because like what happened was after the death of Superman, from Doomsday, then like you had like these different Superman storylines take off. You had like the younger Superman, then you had like Steel came out, and there was like two others I can't remember, but it was during that. I guess maybe early mid 90s,
right.
Somewhere like that. Yeah.
So he referred to the origin, right, of Superman. Well, let's really get to the origin. Let's talk about the prototypical version of Superman.
Preach.
Unfortunately, the Great Depression was a bad time for people without a job. Siegel and Shuster tried to make a living as authors of science fiction novels, but none of their stories found a publisher. Tired of waiting in vain, they found their own magazine, Science Fiction, in October 1932. In their third issue, January 1933, they published a story called The Reign of the Superman, which marked the first appearance of the iconic character, though not in the form as he is known today. Here, he was merely a monster created by mad scientist Professor Ernest Smalley with an aid of a meteor. Smalley wants to make the perfect human being. His eugenic experiment pays off as Superman has indeed amazing telepathic superpowers, but he eventually goes on a rampage until his power wears off. The story was clearly inspired by Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein, which was adapted into film by Universal in 1931, starring Boris Karloff. Contrary to popular thought, the term Superman was not thought up by Siegel nor Shuster. It first appears a concept in German philosophers Friedrich Nietzsche 1883 treatise, also Sprach Zarathustra, whatever. You get it. You can read it. Zarathustra. As the Ubermensch, that was later translated by some English translators as Superman. Like in George Bernard Shaw play Man and Superman, 1903, and already in casual use by some pulp novelists, which might be where Siegel and Shuster picked it up since they never read Nietzsche. Despite its historical significance, the comic didn't have any impact. Clearly, audience were not in the mood for a story about an omnipowerful villain. Siegel and Shuster therefore tried out several other science fiction stories which kept being rejected by bigger publishing companies. And here's a copy of that original Superman.
Oh, snap.
Had to wait till Thanos till we get that all-powerful villain, I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so
Superman as scary as possible.
Exactly. So let's keep going. Wait, what's going on here?
Look like Lex right there.
There we go.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
The cover for Siegel and Shuster's unpublished 1933 comic book, The Superman, is featuring a shirtless Superman reminiscent of Tarzan, right? So remember, we're looking for this snake in the shield going down Egypt, right? We need to get to that, right? Now, this is pre that iteration, right? But we're going to get to it. And here's the two creators right here. It says, many like the idea of a hero who would save mankind, especially if they could imagine themselves in Kent's role. But even after World War II, Superman endured. He continued an ancient tradition of invincible mythological heroes like Hercules and Siegfried, and religious saviors as Moses and Jesus Christ. What they're thinking about here.
Wow.
All right. Now, this is what I have here is a copy of the actual correspondence with O'Melia and Siegel about the origin story of this new iteration of Superman. This is the actual correspondence letter that you see here.
Wow.
Right. And the quote here is that this story bears a striking similarity to that of Moses, who was likewise put into a small vessel by one of his parents and sent somewhere where he could have a better chance of surviving.
True.
Early material detailing this version can be seen at this link. This is from Hardwing Bento. Now, this is, again, earliest rendition of what we would know or what we are familiar with as Superman. Notice the chest symbol. Looks more like an arrowhead than a pyramid, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is an interview with the creators. And they asked them specifically, who came up with the S insignia and how many versions did it go through? Schuster. Jerry and I discussed it in detail. We said, let's put something on the front. I think initially we wanted to use the first letter of the character's name. We thought S was perfect. After we came up with it, we kiddingly said, well, it's the first letter of Siegel and Schuster. Progressively, as the strip evolved, the emblem became larger and larger. You notice at the beginning it was quite small. It was almost a more simple triangle at the beginning, wasn't it? Like, actually, it was made like a shield. I can't describe it, but I was thinking of what they call a crest. Yet I had a heraldic crest in the back of my mind when I made it. It was a little fancy triangle with curves on top, which we see right here. Right now, this is the actual cover of Action Comics #1. This is the first time we see what we would recognize as Superman. Now, as you see, he has the shield with the S. Let's get a bigger version of that. So, is it a snake going through Egypt? But wait, let's go into the issue itself. Right?
Man, you're not letting him slide on anything. I was gonna kind of let this slide.
Nah.
You're like totally like I'm not letting this dude slide not on one single little thing he said. That's
look at this. This is a panel from the same comic book. Look at the S. That looks more like what we would know. Well, vocab, you would know this being a graph writer. The old graffiti S that cats always used to do in the lunchroom, right? It looks very similar to that. Again, this is another panel in the same issue. They barely drew it there, right? Here's another one, right? Here's another one. Barely see, it doesn't even look like an S.
Yo, BK Powers is not playing with y'all, yo. I'm trying to say this man is not playing. Hold on. He's going page by page, bro.
Give him a break.
He's not playing at all.
Man, speaking of L being a Hebrew word, you're about to make this dude catching.
Wait. Something. Hold on.
English version of it.
Right.
Golly. Nah, man, this is.
It's all first verse.
First verse. Wait. Verse. All right, so here's my thing, right? So after showing you all this, right? Why not? We don't need to have a Superman in blackface. There's no need for that, right? It's because we have black superheroes. Mm-hmm. We need more black superheroes, but there's no need for him to try to make a white hero into a black one. What he should advocate for is for creators to make more black heroes, like the ones we see right here, right? And there's no need to like reinvent a hero when we have black heroes. Recently we have the Schomburg Center's 8th annual Black Comic Book Festival, which took place on January 17, 18, 2020.
That's before COVID-19 was scaring everybody. We were there last summer. Remember, Adam?
Right.
We got the video.
Where?
At the Schomburg Center.
Oh, yeah. Right. The library joint. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, and they had black inkers, drawers, authors, black-owned comic book publishers. They were all here in their own version of Comic-Con. He should talk about this.
Right.
And the thing is, we don't have to remix a white hero to empower black people.
In the multiverse, there is also a black, not just Steel, not the one who, but there's also, I guess, Calvin Ellis, who in the multiverse, he is a black Superman from Krypton who became president. In one of the alternate, they have multiverse in DC.
That's dope.
So I'm just
actually to that point too. Like, not to cut you off, somebody in the chat, said that, and I guess maybe it's a Islam supporter. I don't know who it is, but he said that by taking note that you have Steel, then we're I guess conceding Riza Islam's point or something like that, something to that effect, which is not correct because obviously Riza Islam is saying that the original Superman was based off of a black man, and that's the claim that we're contending against. Obviously, as BK Powell just so eloquently and definitively obliterated that claim, we see that that's obviously not the case. Actually, I think Riza Islam would have been better off kind of making a play for Shazam. I think he would have been better off going for Shazam because I think with Shazam you do have somewhere in his backstory you got Egypt and having to do with something like that.
That's true.
So he would have been better off. It's almost like he's combining Shazam and Superman or something like that, or kind of conflating the two. Right. But he would have been better off going that route.
Almighty Isis, he could have did that too, right? So yeah. So, but so my thing is, you don't have to like remix and flip a character when one, there is black superheroes. Two, you should advocate for more creators to make black superheroes as opposed to trying to put blackface on the ones that already exist. When they were doing the first Batman series in the movies, they was thinking about having Robin played by a black person. I mean, I'm like, no, I actually didn't want to see that. I want to see whatever I read in these comic books on the silver screen. That's what I want.
Purist right there. You want to see the real deal. Huh?
Exactly. So
I can't lie. Idris Elba did a good job as Heimdall, though. I was rocking with him as Heimdall. I get it, but
right.
He was cool in that role. But I mean, to your point though, I think this is what I was trying to get to. I think that there's like this reverse effect in the sense that you have, people like Riza Islam who would say that, this or that was stolen from, Africa or black culture or whatever. The Europeans stole certain things, culturally speaking, from African peoples, or what you might refer to as the original peoples. And I think like now what you're saying is like the reverse of that, in certain instances, where people feel like they've got to now co-opt like key figures, in white culture, and say, oh no, this cat was like really black, in order to kind of regain some of that cultural power, so to speak. Right. And I'm with you. I don't think that's even necessary. I don't think that we really need to do that. If anything, create your own superhero and ride with it. We don't have to, blackerize, Superman to make ourselves feel better. We don't need it. Yeah,
absolutely. I still think Luke Cage on Netflix was totally slept on. Man.
Oh, the first season was crazy. Absolutely.
I like both of them.
Season 2 was cool. The first season was dope.
I think he certainly outpaced Danny Rand. I wanted the green. I wanted Iron to be dope. I really wanted it to be dope, and it didn't. The second season definitely didn't get there for me. I like the first one though, but I agree with you, okay. I think Luke Cage was definitely slept on.
And they got all the episodes.
It was well esteemed, but I think he should have got some award. Somebody should have got an award for that.
It was good. I definitely enjoyed it.
They had like performances by Rakim snuck in there, and then they got all that
crazy
named after hip hop tracks, and just that thing was real dope. Incidentally, there is a book about some of the Christian parallels as far as the messianic parallels with Superman called "The Gospel According to the World's Greatest Superhero" by Stephen Skelton. I've got actually an interview with him on the channel. It's already up, and I think he just brings out stuff that's actually there, and they really even more personally did it in the movies. So that with it, and some people have a problem with that. I think it's kind of interesting when they do things like that. But
I agree. Bushmaster was a better villain. That I agree with.
Oh yeah, he was really interesting.
But Cottonmouth was dope though. That's why I was mad. They spoiler alert. They killed him early.
Yeah, Cottonmouth.
Because the Bible quoting gun toting guy they replaced him with wasn't too hot.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he was they was tripping. I don't know what happened with that, but the series still ended up dope. I think that's a credit to how good it was. You want to go with the next clip?
Yes, sir.
Here I have 20 more pages about the origin of Superman.
No,
You're right. Yeah, BK was about to be like, yeah. And so 20 years later, you know what I'm saying? He's going to go through everything. 20 years of Superman's renderings, man.
It's a note scribbled on my
body that joint. He said, yo, I'm not letting Riza Islam live at all on that plane. Like, at all.
Joe Schuster scribbled this note on a napkin late in a bar in 1945.
Man, if I could find it, I would open it up.
No, hey, I'm telling y'all right now, man, I got love for all of my urban apologists people out here, all my apologists folks. Like, nobody's research game is tougher than BK apologists, though. I'm telling you. BK, when it comes to his research game, yo, I don't even know how he gets this stuff, man. Nobody's research game is tougher than that, man.
I like it though, because sometimes I'm like, hey, can you find this?
Yeah, right. No. I got you guys. Anytime.
Respect, man. Hey, respect to that.
Be like, hey, yeah, check this out. All right, man. Thanks, man.
You got BK apologists is the researcher, and then Matt Jackson is the library.
Basically,
yeah, he's the bibliophile.
If there is a book in print,
he has it.
Jackson has it,
or it's coming, or it's in the mail, It's in the mail.
If the Library of Congress was a person, it'd be MJ.
There you go.
You're right. Yo, MJ Jackson has like the original autographs of the New Testament coming to Amazon right now. It's in the mail right now. I'm talking about the original James, penned by the apostle himself.
Wow.
It's coming to MJ's home, man. He's got every book ever, man.
Basically.
Crazy. All right, man.
MJ, he's always like, off the top of his head, he'll be like, well, in the third section of that book, he really deals with. He's like, what? How do you know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like,
it's crazy.
Where everything is located. Like, what are we doing here?
The semicolon. You know what I'm saying? He was saying,
you're gonna change his name to Dewey Decimal. Mr. Dewey Decimal.
Great, man. MJ Jackson, man. Y'all subscribe to his channel, man.
Absolutely.
Urban Christian Institute, man. He's got some dope stuff. All right, here we go.
The civil rights movement is what inspired a large.
Who left Malcolm X? Magneto. I can see that now that you say it.
Yeah, he fashioned a lot of the superheroes after civil rights leaders.
And we got while we on this, we got to talk about Jesus being black.
Oh yeah, of course, Jesus. So first of all, his name wasn't Jesus. There was no J in the Hebrew language prior to the 1600s. The letter J didn't come into existence. Number one. Number two, his name was Esau. His name was Yeshua. You know, different names you want to give him.
Joshua.
Yeshua.
Yahweh. No, that's
God. Right. But there are different names, but none of them had the letter J. Right. Yes, he was a black man in Palestine. That's in Africa, and you have to be olive dark skin in order for you to live in that area because they didn't have no SPF 20, 30, or 40 sun protecting, skin protecting to, no sunblock. So you had to live in that area and be a black man. His mother was a Egyptian, Mother Mary. All of these things. He had hair like lamb's wool. That's in the Bible. He had skin as burnished brass burned in an oven. That's in the Bible. So he was absolutely described as a black man. Yep. Plain and simple. People say, well, God doesn't see color. Stop it. Just stop it. What? They say God doesn't see color.
Okay.
No, God does see color. But it doesn't mean, because I'm this color, I'm better or worse.
Yep. I think he ticked off all the boxes of conscious community talking points in that one clip.
Right. Hebrew Israelites, they were like this. They're like, yeah. His name is Esau. Again. Jesus' name is Esau. They don't know.
Oh man, that's wild. I do want to acknowledge that, man. I thought it was he didn't like at the end there. He talks about how based on your race, you're not better than anybody else or something like that. So I mean, I think that's a pretty big deal. I mean, I always like to acknowledge people's positives before or as I'm critiquing or whatever, whenever possible. But that being said, I mean, like you said, I mean, this man went through every possible talking point. I mean. And again, I hate to be redundant, but it's overstating the case. Like to say, okay, well, he was in Palestine and you had to be olive skin, or I guess he meant at least olive skin to live in that area. And he's kind of like joking, say, because they don't have no SP50. It's like, fam, like historically speaking, I mean, we know. I mean, it's on record. I'm saying that the Greeks and the Romans. They was all throughout that area. I'm saying for at least going back to 300 BC and when they were kind of in their conquest years or whatever, they was all over the place, man. I mean, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah,
and
don't forget about the Edomite kingdom right there in the Transjordan area of all those white people right there.
Yeah, right.
Say that tongue in cheek, everybody.
Yeah.
It's funny. They'll make that argument too. They'll say white people couldn't exist in the Middle East, and then they'll have Edomites being this white kingdom right there in the Transjordan area. There's a conflict there, but go ahead on.
And Kendrick Brady, you get his point. What do you think his point was? And do you feel like he backed up his point correctly? You feel like that was?
Well, let me ask this question, right? So this is a Muslim, right?
Right.
And so to some extent, he's going to affirm. I mean, he's acknowledging that Jesus existed, and he's saying Jesus was a black man, right?
Right.
Now, the best records that we have of Jesus in his life would be coming from the New Testament. You know what I'm saying? Now, with that being said, Jesus is interacting with Roman centurions. You know what I'm saying? He's interacting with Romans. There's Roman oppression going on. You know what I'm saying? At the time, like who are these Romans who are oppressing? You know what I'm saying? The Israelites, Hebrews, or whatever during Jesus' day. If according to Riza Islam, you couldn't have been a white person and lived in that area. Well, who was doing all the oppression? Where's this Roman oppression coming from? Was it a bunch of black Romans running around, doing all the oppression? Were the Romans black? Right? I mean, were they all olive skin or darker? Well, no, obviously not. But again, Jesus is healing like the servant of the centurion. You have the Romans, crucified Jesus. Now, obviously, as a Muslim, he wouldn't believe that. You know what I'm saying? But, there's Romans around. So, but according to him, there couldn't possibly have been. He's like joking about this stuff. That I don't know how you reconcile that.
And even the whole, Palestine being in Africa, there's a sliver called the Jordan Rift Valley that does take a part of Israel into the Tectonic Plates, right? Like up the Gaza Strip and a little bit of Israel, but Israel proper is not in Africa. A part of it is, right? So, but that's, I'm just saying.
That's I got a bone to pick with that too. I was going to say something about that. Like there are certain claims in the Congress community that are like my pet peeves, and one of them is this notion like, oh well, Israel is really in Africa. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, here's the thing. All of these boundaries, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are all man-made boundaries anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you got one group of people, Europeans, let's say, you know what I'm saying? Obviously not just them, but let's just say Europeans for the sake of the point that constant community people are trying to make. They're saying that, Israel or whatever is like the ancient Near East or Middle East or whatever. And then you have, people like Riza Islam say, oh, well, there is no, Middle East. It's just part of Africa. There's just people moving the line. You know what I'm saying?
Geopolitics. It's geopolitics.
That's really all it is. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a bit of sleight of hand. I'm not necessarily saying it's intentional, but in either case, you've got man-made boundaries and people placing them in different places. So you can't say, oh, no, it's really in Africa. Well, it depends on how you define, Africa, really.
And those boundaries are not usually based upon tectonic plates. It's usually, like a mountain, a giant mountain range, or a large river, Rio Grande, or the edge of a body of water, or something like that. It's not even based upon that anyway. But
they wouldn't have known anything about tectonic plates back in
exactly
the first century. Come on, man.
Right, and even the Middle East, right? They didn't even call it the Middle East until I think World War II.
Yeah, I think it was early 1900s is what I heard.
So it's geopolitics. It's geopolitics.
Yeah. So. Right.
Even the people in Africa don't call themselves Africans.
Mm-hmm.
It's those of us who live outside of Africa because they don't think they live in the continent. People in Africa, they identify by their nation, their tribe, their clan.
Yep.
Africans don't call themselves Africans. Maybe now because we've been calling them that for so long.
Oh, that's definitely more of a. As far as us treating it like it's kind of monolithic in the way that we do now.
Right.
That's definitely an idea that's emerged over time.
Because sub-Saharans don't look at Northeast Africans as being the same. They do not.
No, of course not. Of course not.
So,
and even when you have these notions of like, I can think of like certain ancient figures who may have considered something to be Africa, but it might be like Roman North Africa. It's kind of what they would have had in mind or something like that. They're not thinking of the entire, or what we would call the entire continent. And even still, like you said, they're not approaching it as we would, where we just kind of say, okay, well, Africa, like it's just this one people group, or Africans rather, being this one people.
Right.
They don't look
the ancient Kemetic people did not look at the Nubians as family.
Oh, no, they're trying
Far
to
from it.
out, yo. Yeah, absolutely.
Far from it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Kublay's asked a question real quick. He says, where did he get that Mary was an Egyptian? Well, it's a play on words, and we see a lot of people in the conscious community use this. In fact, I think this is also in Zeitgeist, right? It mentions, right? Because there's a word for the two women that are in the Book of the Dead that put up Emheru, and the word is called Moray, which is beloved. So what they try to do some parallelomania with the word, because Mary sounds similar to Moray, so therefore she's Egyptian. But that's not what her name is in Hebrew anyway. It's Miriam. It's not Moray anyway, so it doesn't work.
Yeah, ironically, named after a woman who celebrated after the waters closed down on the Egyptian army when they crossed through the Red Sea in the book of Exodus.
Right.
That's
Her namesake is who was like, the horse and the rider thrown into the sea.
Yeah, Exodus 15. Right. Absolutely.
Right. It's true.
There you go. Yeah,
thank you, MJ. Yeah, MJ Jackson with the MDRI, right? Mm-hmm.
And if you hold to the idea, which I think is a pretty good theory, that Luke's genealogy is Mary's, then actually you'd have Mary's genealogy in the book of Luke 3, if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying. But I got something.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'll go ahead. No, I'm gonna wait till the right time to talk about the Isa thing briefly. But go ahead.
Okay.
Something else.
Well, I was going to say to MJ's point about Mary, being a title and not a proper noun. Mary, you see it applied to both male and female. You know what I'm saying? So you got guys like just kind of cherry picking. You know what I'm saying? The Kemetic folks are kind of cherry picking. Well, actually, I guess not just Kemetic, because Islam would not consider himself to be Kemetic. But folks like that are cherry picking when they want to apply that to Mary as in the Bible. But yeah, vocab, what you want to say?
So he says, his name is Esau, which the Quran refers to Jesus as Isa, and it says Isa bin Maryam. Isa bin Maryam, which is fascinating for a few reasons. One is the Quran affirms the virgin conception of Christ. That's why he's Isa, son of Mary, versus being described as Isa bin Yosef. I don't think the NOI, unless I'm getting confused here, I could be wrong with it. I didn't think they affirmed the virgin birth. So I need to look that up and see.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
But the Quran certainly does, and Muslims certainly do. And it constantly refers to Jesus as Isa bin Maryam. Now, there's a really good article I recommend everybody checking out at Answering Islam. I'm going to drop the link into there after I say this real quick. But here's a few things to talk about this idea. One is Arabic Christians never called Jesus Isa. They called him Yasu. Based upon the Aramaic and based upon ultimately the Hebrew is where you get it from. And so you look, that's actually so I was at an Arabic Christian church for a while. If you call Jesus Isa there, they're like, that's a Muslim thing. That's wrong. These are the Arabic speaking Christians, like his name's Yasu. That's what we have always called Jesus. Yasu has never been Isa. Now, think about this for a second, everybody. Just forgetting any linguistic consideration and all that. Do you think a faithful Hebrew would name their son after one who is being described in the Old Testament as being rejected by God? He didn't get the birthright. He didn't get the blessing. Malachi 1. Now, I know the Hebrews like to misuse this verse. Does say, yet I have loved Jacob, but I have hated Esau. And then you're telling me that the angel's going to tell Mary and Joseph, hey, name your son Esau, homie. Like, what? Right. Later on, Hebrews 12, 15, 17, no faithful Jew is gonna do that. This does not make sense. No one really actually knows why Muhammad decided to call Jesus Isa, other than it seems like a clear case of confusion, as he seemed to be confused about a lot of things. And then the Muslims in some way are kind of stuck with this mistake of saying, well, it's Isa. it's Isa, or really, which means Esau. But why would they think that? Now I'm gonna drop that link in there just to point out the fact that
that'd be like somebody from this generation naming their child COVID. Coronavirus. Coronavirus. You know what I'm saying? 19 Coleman. You know what I'm saying? COVID Coleman.
Oh, chill.
It looks like you've been thinking about it there, guy. Yeah, but you know that's bad juju right there. With that, seriously.
Cool. So let's continue.
Okay, cool. All right, next clip. I got that.
Oh, wait.
And you know, one of the things that I would like to clear up is when people, because I didn't, you're the only person I didn't Google, because I said, you know what, I want to, whatever I don't know about him, I want to learn from him live, like organically.
Yes.
But one thing that does happen when you Google the FOI is, or Google sometimes even Islam, is the fact that they'll put this hate Jewish people
of course
on it. So I would like for you to clear that up, or speak on it, or whatever.
Well, the first thing is, we are the true original Jews, the true Hebrews. We are the original people. Let's make that very clear. This is why there's a big difference between a Jew and Jewish. When you say ish, it means a kind of or like so. Okay, number one. So the people who call themselves the Jews today happen to be the Khazars. These are the Ashkenazi people. These are the ones who came from the Caucasus Mountains. These are the ones who were in Poland and all over in Germany, etc. These are the ones who were going and escaping from that area down into Africa, which was allowing them to come to different countries and open it up. But they wanted to go back to the Holy Land, Palestine, and take that from the original people there, inhabit it, call themselves true Jews, kill the true Jews who were there, Palestinian people, and then say that this is our land, etc. They happen to be. And they say we hate Jews and we attack Jews because we speak the truth about who controls the money, who controls the movie and film industry, who controls the music, who controls the media. And the majority of people that do that happen to be Jewish.
Why?
That's all. They happen to, if they were Mexican Catholic, we will say the Catholics run the movie and film industry. They run all these different things, if that were the truth. But they just so happen to be. The people who established the Federal Reserve and the Federal Reserve Act, those people who had a meeting off the coast of Georgia on Jekyll Island, David Rockefeller and the boys, happened to be, 1913, happened to be Jewish. So these...
Okay, my bad. I went further than I was supposed to.
That's fine.
Then you had on the paper here. My bad.
It's all good. It's all
my
good.
My screensaver went on me, and I kept it rolling. But anyway,
my favorite clip of this is when Farrakhan made the I say it's favorite tongue in cheek. He made the joke where they asked him about being anti-Semite, and he said, "I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm an anti-termite." Oh. He put that out on Twitter in October 2018.
Wow.
It's like, how do you exactly justify, that?
That's wild, bro. That's wild. I mean, I think it's a case of, I ain't trying to bring no smoke to your channel, BK. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, do you think?
I'm going to say what I got to say. Yes, so, people tend to make excuses for people that they want to support. You know what I'm saying? Like Farrakhan has clearly said some stuff, that was obviously objectionable. You know what I'm saying? Now, I think he's a wordsmith, and I think that he, at times, is able to kind of walk his way back in certain ways that make it appear as though he wasn't just, speaking off the cuff and saying something crazy. But when, in fact, you listen to what he had to say, it was really, he was out there. But, to the same effect, like some people do that with Donald Trump. I mean, there are some things with Donald Trump will say and do that are, clearly out of step with what, us Christians would want to affirm as being good behavior. And people make excuses for him too. You know what I'm saying? I think it's something. The point I'm trying to get to is that we all have to check ourselves for various forms of idolatry. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should never be in a position where you're affirming ungodly behavior or statements because you have some other reason for supporting this or that person. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what your political ties may be. In this case, he's got some religious ties. You got to call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying? You got to call a spade a spade. Like, if it's wrong, it's wrong. And I find that, to me, folks like Reza Islam spend a lot of time apologizing for, or actually that's probably not the right way to put it, but explaining, what Farrakhan was trying to say, or what he meant by this, or what we really believe. When really, just listen to the man. He says what he means, man. You got to call a spade and just leave it at that. Another thing, again, the Khazar theory, I've heard that before, obviously, and maybe y'all can speak more on that. But he spent it was like the Khazar theory on crack. Like he took it beyond just these are some Europeans who converted to Judaism later on in the game. He's like, no, these cats was trying to go to Palestine and take over and do all this and that. I mean, maybe you guys have heard that before, but that seemed to be another.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. But again, these are old talking points to a new demographic, right? Yeah. Everything he said in that clip has been said by other supporters of Farrakhan for years. It's nothing new.
Hebrew Israelites are big on the Khazarian theory as well.
Right.
Sure.
Or the whole. Actually, let me share my screen real quick.
Yeah, I think Windsor claims that 1 million black Jews went into Africa. I think Windsor has a large astronomical number in for that. I forget the number off the top of my head. Okay, so don't quote me on that.
It's all good. So the suffix, right, ish, used to form adjectives from nouns with the sense of belonging to, British, Danish, English, Spanish, or after the manner of, having the characteristics of, like babyish, girlish, mulish, which I don't know what that word means, but it's okay. Addicted to, inclined or tending to, right? Near or about. Now, notice how that definition is towards the end for the suffix ish, right? And as we know, when it comes to words, the sentences help us to define how the word's being used within that sentence, right? But what I always find interesting is his particular definition, right? Near or about, right? How come no one ever used that particular definition for the British? No one ever says they're not really British from Britain. They're kind of like Britain. No one does that.
Right.
Yeah, the Scottish.
Yeah, they're Spain adjacent. They're kind of from Spain. Like no one does that.
Right.
The Irish.
Right. You know what I mean? They kind of like only when it comes to Jewish, somehow that becomes the go-to definition. Right. So I just wanted to share that.
By the way,
it's called special pleading. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why are you making a special case? You know what I'm saying for the term Jewish, but you don't do that for anything else. You know what I'm saying, why do you hold this in a particular category?
To the Hebrew Israelites in the audience who want to use this argument, because I've heard you use this exact argument, I have something I want to give you, and it's an L. And here it goes. I know you guys love Leviticus. You love the KJV. Well, turn to Leviticus 24:10, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hebrew Israelites in the audience who are cheering our friend who were interacting with the clips right now. Turn there. Go ahead. Turn there. Okay, I'll give you a second. Okay. Leviticus 24:10 and 11 says this. And the son, and this is reading from the King James Version of Leviticus 24:10, and the son of an Israelitish woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the children of Israel, and his son of the Israelitish woman and a man of Israel strove together in the camp. And the Israelitish woman's son blasphemed the name of the Lord. And it goes on. It says Israelitish woman 1, 2, 3 times between those two verses, Leviticus 24:10 and 11. Now, I don't know if that would have currency with our current speaker, but to the Hebrew Israelites are like, yeah, that's right. What you can do with Leviticus 24:10. Because if you're going to use that argument, it's kind of like an Israelite,
kind of, sort of.
Right.
Israel adjacent, So, yeah. So that's, I think we got one more clip, I think.
Actually, I think on my list here, on my homework assignment that you gave me, I got 2 more to go.
All right, cool.
Do you want to say anything briefly about the Khazar theory?
All
right. No.
I know that there's been a lot of
I have a quick version, which is I've looked into it because I care about truth, right? It does seem like there was a time where there was a number of Khazars who converted into Judaism, and then just like other converts, because remember, Judaism has always taken converts,
right?
As well as there's been intermarriage. So there were circumcised that converted. There's so many questions though. One is how many, and then how far are they spreading out anywhere? Nobody really knows, and we don't really have an accurate understanding of what Khazarian DNA would look like. For example, we've tried to come up with sort of some proxies, I think, as far as what that would look like. And so Michael Brown spoke on this once, and he basically said that could be a drip or a drop in the bucket. So it's not that there's no truth to that idea, but the idea of modern day Jews are Khazars, all of them. I mean, it's almost insane to say that's what
it's an overstatement that you can't sustain with argument and evidence. You know what I'm saying? So in light of that, like, you just shouldn't make those kinds of claims. You know
it's inaccurate to say modern day Jews equal Khazars because of the Khazarian conversion.
Right. I could be a Khazar for all we know.
You could.
Somebody said Hebrews is going to cut that out. You know, that one section where I said that, they're going to like, oh, see, you know what I'm saying, we try to tell you the urban apologetics community are all Khazars.
Why not?
You're gonna let Dante it gets cut off right there. Fortune is gonna take that part out. UA community admits to being Khazars.
So Kendrick Brady, maybe he's a Hebrew Israelite, I don't know, but he asked a question. So who are the modern day Jews? I know we don't want to start for every question, but I don't know why people like feel like that's a jaw dropping question. I mean, the reality is, I don't know any urban apologists who would say that the Jews or people of who are the Hebrews that the Bible speaks about are exclusively like white. I don't know anybody like that. You know what I'm saying? No. The reality is, I think that you have Jews of all shades. You know what I'm saying? I think you have Jews of all, of various different, what we would call where we would consider to be ethnic backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's some who were, they come from all over the place. So I'm not even, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize, Kendrick Brady. I misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
I think he was just actually just generally asking. I don't think he was trying to get to a point. Or
I think according to Galatians, it's the church, but we don't want to go there.
Yeah, so I've got to give an apology to Kendrick Brady because I totally misunderstood the question. I mean, we get Hebrews like trolls all the time, so I jumped the gun on that. So that's my apology. But I mean, I stand by as far as the explanation though. We at the end of the day, Hebrew Israelites do that all the time. Well, if we're not, the Hebrews, then who is? It's like, well, fam, like, hey, man, we're all over the place. I'm saying, like, it doesn't have to be some exclusive. I'm not saying that the only Jews are the white Jews over there and wherever. I don't know any urban apologists saying that. I just wanted to clear that up because it's a misconception. Let me just be clear. There's a misconception amongst Hebrew Israelites that urban apologists believe that the only Jews who are out here are white. That is not true. I don't know not one single urban apologist who believes that or argues that. I don't know one single urban apologist who would disagree that there are that there are Jews of various different shades. That's not the issue. The issue is when you take scripture like Deuteronomy 28 and various other passages and make theological claims tied to what you believe to be your identity or nationality. That's when it becomes an issue. So that's really all I was trying to do.
No, I definitely, to piggyback on that, I'm skeptical regardless of who makes the claim. Like, if it's Wyckoff Yasharallah or Shlomo Rosenberg, if both of those guys make a claim that they are direct descendant of ancient Israel, I'm going to be like, okay, can you break that down for me? Because a lot of times they think that if a white person says it, we take it off for face value. I don't. Mm-hmm. So I don't trust none of you. I don't trust none of you people.
Right.
You know what I mean? No matter what color you are, just because you tell me something, I'm just not gonna naturally just buy it. Like, I'm from Brooklyn. You're not gonna hit me with the You're not gonna do that.
Right. What's funny about that though? I'm just keeping it real. I don't mean to disrespect anybody or anything like that. But so we was at Bocat. Matter of fact, you was there too, BK. First time we met, we was at that debate with Dr. Michael Brown. And the other gentleman, I can't remember his name. So we were at that debate, and as we were walking out,
it was Rabbi Shmuley Budiak, I would think.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So as we were walking out, there was a gentleman who appeared to be, from physical appearance, he seemed to be a Caucasian, but he also seemed to be a person who identified as being a Jew. And I overheard him kind of giving like his lineage going all the way back to Abraham or something like that. And immediately I'm like, I don't know, but it's like, I don't know about all that. You know,
right.
He's the elderly guy, so I'm not going to disrespect him. But I mean, I don't really, place a whole lot of, credence in that kind of stuff. Like maybe he is. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Abraham, nah, the farthest I've seen, I'm aware of, is there are some Jews who seem to have the ability through legitimate paperwork and whatnot to trace lineage back to sometime in the Middle Ages, and it's super rare. And I don't know. I'm not sure. But then Abraham, nah.
I'm just making the point that we don't just take every white Jew's word for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely.
I try to keep my energy the same whether I'm dealing with Black Hebrew Israelites or whoever. I'm weighing out truth claims. You know what I'm saying? That's what I do. Or Christians, for whoever I'm coming in contact with. I don't just take people's word for it.
I don't believe none of you.
Yeah.
Well, he also brought up.
I don't believe Rogan Malone really exists. I think he's a figment of everybody's imagination.
He's a Russian bot.
I thought it was Avatar white supremacy. Nah, but you know what? Sorry, that's what the Hebrews like to say to those who don't understand what's happening with that. He brought up Revelation as well, and he did the whole thing of the texture of Jesus's hair.
Oh yeah,
a lamb's wool. Which that's not what the text says. They have that also, that scene. Malcolm X, where he confronts a chaplain and he utilizes that type of argumentation. In fact, as far as on paper, from what we could see, the NOI touted the Jesus with the woolly hair argument from Revelation prior to Hebrew Israelites. Now, Hebrew Israelites say that they got it from them. We don't really know as far as that, but on paper, it seems like Elijah Muhammad utilized that. It was what I've seen first. I'm always willing to learn more, but it's like, who wants to take credit for the bad argument, right? But, the hairs of his head were white, like white wool, like snow. Revelation 1:14 went over this bunch. If you read the whole thing, it's describing a Jesus in his glory, like the transfiguration. This isn't. I think one time Alfredo said this isn't Jesus on the Sabbath night or something. This is the earthly Jesus, right? And you start in the beginning, and it even says there that the hairs of his head were white, like white wool, like snow. Well, okay, so what's the texture of snow? See, it's describing color. My point by this is saying that, and it also talks about in one of the passages there. It says his face was like that. It was his face
head and hair. Was white.
So he's a white man. I mean, no, it's saying it ends up in 1:16. His face was like the sun shining in full strength. So it's describing the brightness. So that feet like burnished bronze there in Revelation 1:15. It's not saying he had burnt feet. They always get that wrong. It's, if you look at it, it says feet like burnished bronze, or sometimes say as if they burned. It does not say burnt. The idea is it's actually happening. It's not they've been burnt. It's they are burning. So the idea is glowing, which makes sense of the entirety of the passage because he's got gold. It's everything shiny. If you read it in context, it's obvious. He's got stars and lampstands. These are all luminous things. That's the sort of burning man Jesus. That's what's going on, which, by the way, is evidence of his deity. And it's funny, if you're going to bring Revelation 1 to back up his ethnicity, well, I'll even give you that as long as you let me use Revelation 1 to prove his deity. And how would I do that? Revelation 1:8 has God, who the Father here identified there, saying, I am the Alpha and Omega, says the Lord God, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. And then you go to the end of the book in Revelation 22:12, Jesus says, actually in verse 13, I am the Alpha and Omega, the first, the last, the beginning, the end. Meaning Jesus says the same thing Yahweh can say, or the Father says, however you want to look at that. Jesus can say the same thing. Jesus is uttering those same words. Jesus is God, and that's more important. But they want to make a passage about his deity and his majesty. They want to transmutate it into something about his ethnicity, and they're wrong on both counts.
And because they also don't understand the genre of literature that Revelation is written in.
Yeah,
right. It is a vision that he's having. It's all symbolic. Yeah. You don't. For some reason, they kind of go past the double-edged sword sticking out his mouth, as if that was like a regular. That's how Jesus just walked around with this double-edged. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like it's not.
What ethnic group is that? The only never mind. I'm not gonna make it.
No, don't do it for me.
Don't get my channel struck.
No,
it's you have to cost you your old platform.
It's a joke.
You know what I mean?
It's chauvinist if I said it, but I'm not going to. So in Revelation 1, also though, you see that it says his voice, because I've heard some people say, well, look where it says his voice was like the roar of many waters. Yeah. They'll say that's like the deep voice of the black man, right? That's what they'll say. Think James Earl Jones. I guess don't think Mike Tyson, right? But when you look at that, who else has that kind of reference in relationship to them speaking? Yahweh. For example, Ezekiel 43:2. Behold, the glory of the Lord, God of Israel. The glory of the God of Israel was coming from the east, and the sound of his coming was like the sound of many waters. And there's other times where it's associated with his voice, meaning that sound of many waters, whenever that's always associated with Yahweh. So that is saying when Jesus speaks, God speaking. That's what it's saying. It's not saying he sounded like Barry White, but that's what they do. Now, I know he didn't do that there, but I know that's what they also do with that passage.
You know what's interesting? I know we got to move on here too, but that's an interesting point, because one thing that stuck out to me, I used to go to like these Word of Faith churches and stuff like that. I mean, like when I was growing up, we went to like the Creflo Dollar type churches and Kenneth Copeland's and that kind of stuff. And I thank God that he took me out of that. He took me away from it so that I could get my mind right from a doctrinal standpoint. But one thing that occurred to me as I was coming out of that stuff was the fact that when these like pimp preachers like turn a scripture that's about like God's grace or whatever it may be into like a money scripture, which they do with like everything, you know what I'm saying? Like they really take away from the beauty of what the scriptures are trying to communicate about God and what God is doing in the world, his character and so forth. And I see the same trait when it comes to the Hebrew Israelites. You know what I'm saying? Where they want to make certain passages about identity, ethnicity, what Jesus' physical features were like. And you're missing this greater point, this super important point about Jesus being exemplified in terms of his divinity in this passage. You know what I'm saying? And you're just bypassing God, revealing his divinity, you know what I'm saying, to focus on what you think he's saying about his physical features. Yep. So you're missing the whole point of the passage and falling far short of what the scriptures are trying to communicate about God.
And that always happens when you don't check your presuppositions at the door when you look at the text. Right. Because if your presupposition is everything is about Israel, once you look at the text, your brain will self-censor the text for you, so that all you will see is just Israel.
Yeah.
So
Jesus wept. Oh, see, he's black. So it's like
it's like what?
Where? That's like stop. All right, man. Let me go.
Yeah, let's
we got like 2 more clips. We about
let's go for it.
We're on the home stretch.
That's right.
Well, they were going just protect me. Like I'll go to the city. I swear to God. Like and under Clinton's regime,
yes,
Little Rock became like the worst, right? And I had never thought that I'd see something like that. That I have under Barack Obama,
yes,
regime, Chicago has somewhat acted like one of the worst places in America.
This is true.
Meanwhile, Chicago downtown is still the safest place in America.
Come on.
So I had never understood that. I need to understand that. Absolutely. Or is it no way to understand it?
Oh, no, there's always a way to understand it, brother. The first thing you want to look at is the money. Look at the money, look at the motive behind the money and who is controlling the money.
But hold on, because why wouldn't Barack, while he was in office, control his own city? Like, meaning, make it safe. Because at least he could say, I mean, was that not weird?
That's a logical question.
No,
your question is 100% logical. The only issue is the president doesn't run anything. And that's what people don't know. When you're talking about politics, first of all, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says the word politic means multiple bloodsuckers. Number one, which is why they don't really do much for their people. Number 2, Barack Hussein Obama, we are taught, according to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, that he was selected before he was elected. They selected him to do certain things because they wanted a black face to be the one behind certain atrocities that would be committed, not only in America, but outside of America as well.
He should have.
Okay.
I don't think Hillary Clinton selected him.
Nah, apparently not.
Just a matter of trivia. Remember where he says when, I know we're not dealing with this part, but when Nori says, when Clinton became president, basically that the crime in Little Arkansas was like worse than ever. I think he's getting that from Banging in Little Rock, which is like a 1994 HBO documentary that was like real big. I remember like in high school that everyone like he's seen Banging in Little Rock because people couldn't believe it, right? And then I did some reading on this. After that documentary came out, they like triple or quadrupled their police force and kind of almost basically took care of the problem because they brought, it was like an embarrassment. But it's just an interesting thing. I'm not necessarily fact checking. That's more like trivia. It's interesting because you might be like, wait, where did you get that from? Crime in Arkansas.
I never heard of it.
Banging Little Rock. That was a big thing back in the day.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Also, since we're remembering things, do you remember in Living Color, Oswald Bates? Right, the jail scholar, you had the Kufi, and he would just make up these different words, and stereotypes come from a real place.
Yeah, unfortunately,
right?
They all do, yeah.
And these dudes, like, it comes from a lot of what these guys are saying, like the politic thing. Like, what is that? What kind of etymology is that? You know what I mean? And it's like, and again, he's talking from a position of authority. So he's saying this to millions of kids. So they're thinking this is the proper breakdown of this word. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I do want to say, like, as a rhetorical tool, I can't think of anybody who does that better than the kind of up and coming, or like Farrakhan or some of these up and coming NOI guys. Like they'll break down a word that means like it just slaughter it. They'll turn it into something totally other than really what it is, but they make it catchy. Umar Johnson has that kind of trait as well. You know what I'm saying? But you got to be careful about that. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's not true that the word politics like literally means multiple bloodsuckers or however it was. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, like, I don't know, man.
I mean, it'd be a good bar, right? It'd be a good bar.
Yeah, sure.
But it's not legitimate etymology.
Absolutely
right. So you gotta be careful to identify that. Yeah.
And there's even something called the etymological fallacy, whereas the root or historical development of word then therefore determines its modern usage. That's not accurate. It is not the case that the historical development of any given word then therefore dictates what it means right now. That's not true. And so even if they were doing something valid, which probably take multiple, just tell lie vision, telling lies
to your vision. The library where they bury the lies, brother.
KRS canards right here. These are all KRS canards. You talking about
internet? They put you in a net. What do you think they call it? The web, brother.
You went into a net.
But I mean, I know we've been funny, but at the same time, like these are the kind of things that happen all the time, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even going to get into that, but another person, I'm not even going to call him out. I'm not even going to do it. I'm going to stay on.
You guys definitely want to strike my channel. I see that now.
But I mean, with Reason Islam, I mean, again, overstatements. We're saying that the president doesn't run anything. That's not true. I mean, I'm sorry. In America, we've got a tricameral system. You know what I'm saying? We've got 3 different branches of government. You got your legislative, your administrative, and then your judicial branches. Executive. You know what I'm saying? And judicial branches. So, and in each of them, there's this division of power. You know what I'm saying? And there's a check and balances between the 3 of them. And they all have some importance. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's true that the president doesn't run everything. I mean, again, because there's this division of power. So there are constraints on what the president can do. Oh, God.
Be the light.
Be the light.
Oh, man.
Word. You gotta. Excuse me, Adam Coleman. What do you mean I don't run anything? I just sent you a huge check. It's huge. That's mine. I did
it. Yeah. You know what? You're right, man. I'm not trying to bang on Donald Trump in his presidency for nothing, man. Until I get that check, I might hold up criticism.
But, Adam Coleman has a price, ladies and gentlemen. Now we know. Now we know.
You know what I mean? But no, I mean, but for real, like, I think that we got to be careful about these overstatements. Like each of those 3 branches of government have a role to play. They have powers. They have checks and balances between them. And so it's just an overstatement to say he doesn't run anything. Now, to the point I was trying to get to is like, yeah, I mean, the president probably doesn't run as much as the average American thinks that he does, or she does, one day maybe. You know what I'm saying? That's probably true. But again, we got to be careful about that, man. I think that, it's so easy for somebody to just kind of throw a bunch of information out there. And if you're not being fact checks, then, things can get real sloppy real quick. And so you got to be careful about that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what? I am going to say what I was going to say.
Go ahead, man.
I was listening to Kevin Wesley, man, and he's famous for doing this, man. Famous for doing this. This one joint where he was like,
he's famous for running from you too.
Hey, I wasn't even gonna go there, but okay.
Hey, man, hey.
That is
He got on his track shoes.
Stay running from Adam Coleman.
But that's the thing, is like he used the word disciple, and he was like, took the first part is like in the word, D-I-S-C, so it's disc. And he said, yeah, see, it's disciple.
Oh my God, you kidding? He did that?
Christianity was because they were worshiping the sun disc.
Oh my God, you're kidding. You're kidding.
Like, real rap.
No.
He said this, bro.
Yo,
and I'm
Oswald
like,
Bates is still alive and kicking. Look at that.
Come
The
on,
spirit
bro.
of Oswald Bates lives on. Kevin Wesley was channeling him.
Yo, this jailhouse scholarship gotta go, bro. Like, what in the world?
That's terrible.
You're kidding.
I mean, he really said it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, even though it's funny on the one hand, like, but people really carry it like that. You know, he did like a whole lesson on it. You know what I'm saying? Or made a whole point about it, rather. And so when people do stuff like that, on the one hand, it's hard to take them seriously, but at the same time, we got to address this stuff because people are being persuaded by this nonsense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's next level, though. That's like,
yeah. I mean, he took it to another level.
He got skills, man. He should be. He should be right.
The sun. I'm like, come on, bro, don't do that, man. Don't.
What's the one? This guy always says that the Bible, the Holy Bible, is really Biblios, Sun Book.
The Sun Book. Yeah, I've heard him say that one.
Yo, we need to do a whole show just on those words. we need to do a whole show just on that, bro.
I might have to do it, man. I might have to do it.
Oh my God,
it's just amazing. But you know what's sad, man, and I know we got to get to the last clip.
Yeah.
But what's sad is, in our generation, we live in an information age. You know what I'm saying, where a whole bunch of information is just at the touch of a button. You know what I'm saying, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because a lot of bad information is also at the touch of a button. And what makes somebody able to navigate this information age effectively is having a skill set where they can discern between good information and bad information. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that skill set. And when I say skill set, that actually makes it seem more complicated than it really has to be. What I mean by that is just taking time to critically think about the information that you're engaging, looking at the sources. I mean, is your source legit? You know what I'm saying? If you can't track your information beyond such and such.com, I mean, you really should be careful about that. You know what I'm saying? You should really be careful about that. Weigh your sources out. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone.
Nah, you know what? I know I'd bring stuff back to Hebrews Lights, but
you can't help it. You can't help it.
There was one time I was listening to a live stream of Sakari, and Al-Azhar made some claim about something that the KKK had done, and I said, man, that don't sound right. And so I did some checking, this and that, and one of the things I came on was there was a Snopes article on it. I'm not saying that's gospel either, but it talked about a meme that had appeared, and it was interesting. It was current, meaning they said the first time we saw this meme appear was on this date. And I looked at Al-Azhar's live stream, and it was the day after that the Snopes article said the meme first appeared, which was an incorrect meme. I forget what it was outside. It had something to do with KKK. And I was like, dang, he literally quoted something from a meme that surfaced on the internet the day before in this live stream anyways. So yeah, we gotta do some
vet your memes, people. Vet your memes.
Vet your memes, yeah. Absolutely. All right, cool. Let me get this all right. This last clip. We're on the home stretch, man.
Ready. Let's go.
Appreciate everybody in the chat, man. We out here vibing, man. Vibing. All right, here we go.
But we have to return back to our rightful place as the original men of the planet, the gods of the universe. God simply means one who has force and power. Gomer, Oz-Dabar, strength, wisdom, and beauty. Yeah. It just means those who take control, who have control. Ye are all gods, children of the Most High God. Right. We have power and authority. When we exercise it, we simply exercise it in the wrong direction. We exercise it in the wrong way. We kill.
Wow.
Yeah,
I missed that part. I don't know how I missed that. I listened to the interview. I don't know how I missed that part.
He crammed a lot of old school. Like I remember being in college hearing those same talking points from these guys.
Yeah, man. The year of God thing. Goodness gracious. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But let me share my screen real quick. So we're talking about the word God, right? So So the etymology of the actual word God. Old English, supreme being, deity, the Christian God, image of a god, godlike person, from the Proto-Germanic Gutan, source of Old Saxon, Old Frisian, Dutch god, Old High German Gott, German Gott, Old Norse Goa or Gothic Goop, which is of uncertain origin, perhaps from Pi Gut, that which is invoked, source also of Old Church Slavonic Zovo, to call, Sanskrit Huta, invoked, an epithet of Indra, from root Gehu, to call, invoke. The notion could be divine entity summoned to a sacrifice, or some trace it to Gotu, which is poured, from root Gehu, to pour libation, source of Greek kahin, to pour, also in the phrase Kohut Gia, poured earth, referring to a burial mound. Given the Greek facts, the Germanic form may have referred in the first instance to the spirit immanent in a burial mound. That's the actual etymology of the word. But he does something very interesting, right? He breaks down the word God as if it's an acronym. And for me, I never heard of that acronym until just now. I'm like, where does he get that from? So you know me, I do my Googles.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And in a study in American Freemasonry by Arthur Pruis, says here, becoming a Freemason, a free builder. But who will tell us more about this great genometrician, this great builder? Who will let us enter more intimately into the real nature of this Masonic God? Brother McClenachan, the continuator of Dr. Mackey, will supply us with the much needed light here. Is the word spelled Masonically G-O-D, the initials of Gomer Oz Dabar? It is a singular coincidence, he continues, and worthy of thought that the letters composing the English name of deity should be the initials of the Hebrew words wisdom, strength, and beauty. The three great pillars or metaphysical supports of Masonry, they seem to present almost the only reason that can reconcile a Mason to use the initial G in its conspicuous suspension in the east of the lodge in place of the delta. The incident seems to be more than an accident. A study in American Freemasonry based upon Pike's Morals and Dogma, edited by Arthur Pruis. So,
well, there's that. So he's pulling for some Masonic works here. Okay, interesting. Well, and that's the thing too. He said that God basically means like having force and authority, with the force and power, was it? Or force or something, whatever that was. And no, I mean, typically when people refer to God, I mean, they're referring to something, more than that. It's not just having the ability to do something. You know what I'm saying? And well, let me make it be more specific. Like, you're talking about the God of the Bible, as in Yahweh. We're not talking about just an entity that just has power and is able to do certain things. We're talking about somebody who has like omni attributes. They're all powerful, all knowing, all omnipresent, things of that nature. You can say the foundation of really all reality or morality and a number of other things. We're talking about this maximally great being. So you can't just make kind of boil something simple down to, it just means you have force and power, and then now that you've kind of degraded or kind of brought the definition of God down some, now it's low enough for you to kind of put yourself in that category and say, oh yeah, because we're all gods and we can do this and we can do that. No, I mean, there's much more to, the Most High than who we refer to as God, capital G, you know what I'm saying? Then I think what he lets on. But I think that's kind of going back to what Vocab was saying. I mean, and again, this is like a constant theme. It's like, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vocab, you tell me what you think about this too, because maybe I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, but I feel like this kind of ecumenical vibe coming from the NOI, I wonder if it's really an indication of how much is weakened. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't have to, make themselves so accessible to every other worldview before. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have to, kind of, create this wide, gate that everybody can get in and be a Muslim back in the day. But now, the numbers is looking a little suspect from what I understand. I mean, they don't have as much cultural play as they used to. You know what I'm saying? Like, people have done some study and they're like, you know what? You guys are claiming that, Islam was the African religion and everybody was Muslims over in Africa. And that's not true. That's simply not true. And we can see the records of, an African slave, a Muslim slave trade that has been going on for centuries and still continues on the African continent today. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's where you have guys like Wesley Muhammad, right, who's considered one of the part of their academic circle within the nation. Mm-hmm. And he explains that what they subscribe to is a meiotic Islam. So they incorporate a lot of these ancient Kemetic teachings to give the feeling that this is far more ancient than what it really is.
Right.
So he's been infusing a lot of the ancient Kemetic teaching and saying that these were the precursors to what we now call Islam. You know, so.
I think that's what it is, and my man Quentin, he's in the chat as well. He said he made the same point earlier. Ecumenicism is the new strategy for survival for the NOI. I think he's right about that. I mean, to Farrakhan's credit, you know, he's a unique individual who's very charismatic. You know what I'm saying? He's a very strong presenter. He's a very strong speaker, rather. You know what I'm saying? Very compelling, you know, in public. And it's hard to duplicate that. It's near impossible. You know what I'm saying? You don't really get too many people like that, that come along. It's a gift, you know what I'm saying, to his credit. With that being said, you know, in the absence of somebody who can fill those shoes, I think now it's like, oh snap, you know, we're not really where we used to be. We need to find other ways to stay alive, you know, as a movement. And I think that ecumenicism, you know, like Quentin said, is a strategy. You know what I'm saying, for them to keep them from going extinct. And vocab, maybe I don't know if your perspective is different, but I see Hebrew Israelism, unless the Lord intervenes, you know what I'm saying, and brings about truth to those to their heresies. I think that's, you know, where a lot of people are turning their attention to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that the NOI has been the top alternative spirituality, you know, out here as far as urban apologetics, those kinds of things, for, you know, at least since the 60s, maybe earlier than that. I think Hebrew Israelism is going to usurp it. It's gonna become the sort of new thing. And, you know, you and I have talked about this before, and you brought up the point, Adam. You said one advantage Hebrew Israelism has is it's not as exotic. You don't have to jump over to the Quran. You can stay in the Bible, but then you just misinterpret it. It's a little bit different. You don't have to, you know, change your name to X or Shabazz or anything like that. You're right. So it has some advantages over the NOI. And, you know, the NOI, you know, Farrakhan is hung in there, but obviously he's an older man. And then when he passes, you know, who and that's something that they've been asking a lot, you know, who will take over for Farrakhan. They used to think it'd be Khalid Muhammad before 93, but then he proved to be too extreme. But then, of course, he died in 2001. So not him. So who will take over for Farrakhan? I mean, you can look, there's Khalid Muhammad. One of his sons is in charge, I think, of the FOI. Mustafa is his name. And then Khalid Muhammad, who's also been interviewed on the Breakfast Club, not really a charismatic guy, sort of has that ambassador type role. And then on the younger spectrum, there's social media guys like Brother Ben X, the gentleman we're talking about today. And Wesley Muhammad's more of a scholar, but there's no Farrakhan or Malcolm X waiting in the wings.
Mm-hmm.
And so
if there was, I think they would have emerged by now. I think I could be wrong about that, but I think they probably would have.
Yeah.
I know they like this guy. What's his name? Is it Eric Muhammad? Nuri Muhammad. Because he tends to, he looks like a younger Farrakhan. So he aesthetically fits the bill, but I don't know if they're grooming him for that particular position though.
I think he's one of the guys. I mean, I seen him on Breakfast Club fairly recently. I think he's one of the guys that's you know, kind of like Vocab put it, waiting in the wings. But I don't know, man. It ain't looking too good for the NOI, fam. You know what I'm saying? He's on their last leg. I think.
Also, like, I don't know if it was you or Vocab, people are more educated now about these different things. And I would like to think that, you know, people like ourselves, you know, we're confronting and asking the questions. Because a lot of times it's the Christians that have to defend their faith. But we're learning that, no, you have to defend yours too. We want answers as well, you know? And I think we're becoming more aggressive and asking those kind of questions. And now they have to answer, and they're having a hard time on defense because everybody looks great on offense, right?
Yeah.
Offense wins games, defense wins championships, right? And they're having a hard time defending.
Like, why did Elijah Muhammad say that Moses used dynamite to blow up mountains in the Middle East when Israel's in the wilderness? You know, we ask questions like that, which he really said, by the way. Blow up mountains. Go ahead, bro.
I mean, but you know, I think, and this is kind of like my last main point, is that if there's anything that the urban apologetics community can do to really be a service to believers, I think it's really just kind of equipping them so that they can ask these kind of questions and push back. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that we have to understand that we by Christian, I mean, we meaning Christians, we're not the only ones who have to, you know, show and prove. And so for so long, you had all these criticisms hurled by the conscious community, to some extent the hip hop community, and just the culture at large. And these cats ain't defending their worldview. And I think that now we're basically putting these worldviews on display so that we'll know more about them, and then we can, you know, get this pushback. You know what I'm saying? To really get these guys on their tones, and they're not used to that. They're not used to that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So yeah, so that's pretty much all the clips, right?
Yeah, that was it. Yep.
Good.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop a link. I'm gonna drop a link from the final call, actually, about that claim I just made about Moses using dynamite. I said blow up mountains. It was actually to kill people. He killed 300 people supposedly. But the final call actually, which is the NOI newspaper, actually says it.
Wow.
Wait, well, let me read it actually, because it says both. So upon another occasion, he ordered some of the most rebellious ones, numbering 300, to go up into a particular mountain where he set off a dynamite explosion and killed them. Oh, so it was a mixture of, he blew up the mountain, but the followers were in there. So Moses did a max execution of 300 rebels in the midst of Israel with dynamite. Just, you know, just stuff like that.
I would love a primary source for that.
Judgment, right?
Muhammad is the primary source in the mind of the NOI. You know,
but I think it's funny. So in the biblical text, you got God passing judgment in one, you know, like say with the earthquake passage, and then, you know, maybe like with, you know, the other passages where people was messing up and they got, you know, dealt with by the Lord, and then somewhere in between there, Moses, you know, hopped in the time machine. He's in the DeLorean or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know, so him, Doc, and Martin McFly go cop some dynamite, bring it back to the crib, and it's like, yo, it's a wrap for y'all. Bow. You know what I'm saying?
You don't have an explosion button there, vocab?
I don't, but when I did it, I'd use a sound effect. I don't know if you heard it.
Okay, that's all right. More echo next time.
Yeah, that might have been one stick of dynamite.
All right, fine.
There we go.
Now we talk.
Yeah.
So cool, guys, man. This has definitely been fun as always. Any final thoughts? Things that we could look forward to seeing you guys doing? Promote, shameless plug, do what you gotta do. So
it's not a final thought, it's a final call, my brother.
Well, I was gonna say, like, so me and Vocab actually tag teamed the debate. I've been talking about doing this for like a while now, but like we had tag teamed a debate a couple of years ago where I used a particular argument against the common Hebrew Israelite interpretation of Deuteronomy 28. And so I'm actually going to kind of be bringing that back, polishing up a little bit, and expanding it and presenting it on my channel. I wanted to do it this week, but I probably won't be able to do it till next week. And so I got that popping. And y'all be in prayer, man, because I actually I'm working on my book. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if I said that publicly before or not, but I am working on my book. You know, now that, you know, that Ron is out here sniping cats, you know what I'm saying, and I'm doing telework and stuff at home and under quarantine, I'm like, you know what? Hey, might as well get some things done, man. So I'm getting more serious about knocking this book out. And yeah, so y'all keep your boy in prayer, man. And you know, got some more stuff coming later this week on the YouTube channel, True ID Apologetics. That's the YouTube channel and also the website, TRUID.
Put the link in the chat, Adam.
I hate that channel, man.
I put it in there. Yeah.
I hate that channel. It's growing faster than my channel. I look at the data.
Be a hater.
Oh man.
Be a hater.
Y'all know. That's what it is, man. I'm just leeching off of other people.
Oh, what are you, a Hebrew Israelite now?
Oh, this guy.
Oh man, my man.
You gotta strike my channel, boy. They're trying real hard.
Oh man.
One last question here. What do you guys think about Ali Muhammad?
I haven't really followed a whole lot of him. I mean, but you know,
yeah, he has to be the most unique Muslim in the conscious community. That no one has his theology, like at all. Like he is super, like, and I think that's his thing. Like, I'm gonna be that special Muslim that has this, and I mean, he's been called out a bunch of times, fake diploma on Sonetta. Yeah, it was bad. That's why you don't hear of Ali Muhammad as much because he got caught actually showing a fake diploma on Sonetta. So
what?
Yeah, it was crazy, but yeah, he is. That's his thing. He is the most unique Muslim on the planet, like bar none. So.
Wow.
I actually don't know much about him. I see here he debated Divine Prospect, but I don't know much about him.
Wasn't there some beef between, speaking of debates, between Reza Islam and Young Pharaoh you was telling me about?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Some of those clips, man, and see maybe do a breakdown.
Yeah, he wanted to fade fast. He wanted to fade, like no joke. He wanted to fade.
Well, this Thursday I'm gonna be presenting some stuff on the resurrection. I'm mainly gonna be reading from sources about the resurrection, just to have people think of it in a different way. So it's apologetics, but it's going to be a little bit different about how to think about the resurrection and how that ties in with the high view of scripture. So it's apologetic, but it's sort of the theology behind apologetics of it. It's kind of a different thing because I know people like the wham bam arguments, which I like too. That's how you get there. But I'm going to do something a little bit different, read some sources about it. And then on I think Saturday I am going to be putting together a thing I'm calling the Pro Precept Panel. And so
what? Say it again?
The Pro Precept Panel. And so I got a number of urban apologists who are also...
Wait, you say the precept packet?
The Pro Precept Panel. So this Saturday, I'm having a number of urban apologists who are urban apologists, but not well known as being presuppers. I'm going to have us all talk together about some presuppositional issues to give an alternative voice besides sort of the mainstream presuppers that people hear, and also to inject that into the conversation of urban apologetics. So that's going to be fascinating.
So how come I wasn't invited? I'm pro precept.
No, you're not.
I'm definitely I'm pro everybody. I'm
pro everybody. What is that?
All right.
How you pro everybody?
Come on now,
I can be a precept for a day.
No,
man. I want to be in a party, man.
He's hating on you. Getting too many views, bro. You're getting hot. He's trying to cool you down. He's trying to cool you down.
Correct my oversight, Adam Coleman. You are invited to the live chat.
No, I'm being funny. It's like precepts always give me a hard time, man.
Nate says that's why Adam Channel is growing.
Like, man.
Nate says that's why Adam Channel is growing faster than.
Nah.
Nah, but for real, it's gonna be like MJ Jackson, maybe Tyler gonna sneak in there. Eli, the PR cat, the other PR cat from New York. He's from Long Island though, so don't hate BK. And then we got no, I'm just teasing.
The other.
We got
that's not part of New York anyway.
Long
Island.
Long Island. What you grew up? I want to be a super MC. Okay, so we also got a Rick Caldwell is going to join us as well. So we got a number, and I'm working on Isaiah Robinson joining us. So
there's a guy named Scott Lane who's a really strong precept guy.
I'm gonna tell him, Scott, stay in your lane.
Wow.
Yeah, man. But that's Friday, and then Friday. Last thing, Friday, I'm gonna premiere a video where 16 years ago I was rapped the role of Dr. Luke in the world's first holy hip opera, the gospel told all through hip hop music, and I was one of the four main characters. And I'm going to premiere this 16-year-old musical on my channel this Friday.
Wow.
Oh, can I put one last thing in there? Yeah, actually, this is a job my memory. I actually I got some footage from the only apologetics video I've ever done that was intentionally deleted by a gentleman that I was critiquing. I've got the footage. I was able to recover the footage, and we'll be dropping that on my channel later this week. So y'all can expect. I'm gonna just leave it at that. I had a joint that I collabed with somebody else, and apparently cats got salty about it and had YouTube take it down. But I've still got the footage, and we'll be dropping it again on my channel. And I dare him to come for me like that. So
wow.
Because anyway, I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Come and get me.
Come at me, bro.
I want
to hype up the precept thing, man. Like, see, that's what I'm saying. Y'all always kick me out of the party. Like, look, I don't personally apply a pre-sup perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Enough said.
That being said, I'm not like, I don't hate on people, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really don't. So I think that seriously, like, because like individuals like myself don't do it, I think it's great that y'all are doing that. You and I have talked about it. There needs to be more like, healthy discussion and collaboration between pre-suppers and pre-suppers, because we don't have to allow that dynamic and the narrative around it to be ruled by the negative cast. Like I feel like that kind of is a sore spot.
Yeah,
apologetics in general that doesn't need to be. So I affirm my brothers for the pro pre-sup guys. I don't personally subscribe to that approach. I support everything that y'all are doing, man. I got mad love for that, man.
No, I appreciate that. I agree. I'm just saying this first one out the gate is going to be like the pro, and we might even interact with some videos that criticize pre-sup. We'll see. But yeah,
cool. Actually, okay, we can have that talk offline. Go ahead. Yeah.
Cool, guys. All right, so you know what? I'll take one more question from the chat before we go. One more question.
How many books does MJ Jackson have in his library?
Wow,
that's my question.
He can never give you an answer because he's always stacking new books. So there's no way.
It's an infinite number. You can't. Yeah,
There's no way.
It's the only actual infinite in existence. Is Jackson's library.
But how many hats does he have of Canadian sports teams?
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't appreciate too much. That's where I gotta draw the line.
But it looks good, so I'd rather see that than even though he's from Dallas. I'm actually totally cool with him rocking the Montreal Expos because it looks a lot better than a Dallas Cowboys logo or something.
I'll give you that.
But shout out to the Dallas Cowboys fans because I've heard that during this season, of coronavirus and COVID-19, that if you wear a Dallas Cowboys jersey out and about, you won't be able to catch anything. So it's like a safety feature.
That wasn't too bad. I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's the one going around.
That was all right. So all right. So I don't see any questions except, no, you cannot time out vocab, Nate. Fall back. It's okay. He's good people. It's all right.
Yeah, you can't time out vocab. You can tell Fredo to time out vocab.
Does the question have to specific? We'll take something right now that's general, random. I'll take a random question. Well, they'll take a random question because I'm the host. But
Doc Lucky sounds like he's an Armenian.
Don't. He might not come back now. Thank you very much, vocab Malone.
He probably knows him or something. Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't got subs like you guys. Everybody counts over here, buddy. Everybody counts.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's funny. He's been wanting to do that for a minute, to be honest.
Man, shout out to Rox B, D New, Nate 2D2, the regulars, MJ Jackson, man.
Nate. What's the mutiny over vocab? Why you guys wanna?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Man, a lot of shade going on.
It's literally a mutiny. See, mute.
Because when you can't really hear the truth,
it becomes tiny. So it's a mute tiny.
Oh no! No, I'm out, man.
With that's gonna be our way to say thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you, Adam Coleman, vocab Malone. This was dope. Definitely gonna do this again. I don't know when, but God willing, soon. So this is your boy BK Apologist signing off. Catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Peace.